Hi, friends. My name is Nicky. I am the host of Source Clarity, and today is a special day because we have an extraordinary guest. We have a reoccurring guest, someone that is my mentor, my teacher, and something I share frequently is how much I adore and I love this human being that has completely not only changed my life, but so many lives of people that I know. So it is a joy, it is an honor to have this guest back who is an intuitive healer and goes by the name of Alessandro. Alessandro, thank you for joining us on Source Clarity.
Thanks for having me, man. It's always like an exciting. Oh, what's gonna happen today?
There is a bit of that energy, like, where are we going to go with this conversation kind of energy, which is great, which is exciting. So it was pretty interesting, Alessandro. I had this intuitive pull to have you on the podcast again. If you've been a listener for a while, you know that Alessandro has been a reoccurring guest when the podcast had different names, and now we are at Source Clarity. And I had this intuitive pull to have Alessandro as a guest, and I actually just like had a little thing in my notes app of just writing down the questions that I've been curious about for a while, and I think quite a people who are in any of our communities also have these questions as well. And it was funny because, and I'll get to the question in a little bit, but one of the questions I had, I wrote it down, and then when I went to your free webinar on dark forces, like
Uh-huh.
several people were asking it's like an esoteric question, which we're going to get into in a little bit today. And I'm like, okay, this is total confirmation. And so I want to start this off with knowing a little bit more about you. I want to know aspects of you that maybe you haven't shared before, and you can share some of the stuff that maybe you've shared before. But the question that I'll throw at you, you're like, you gonna get to it,
uh.
is is how you began this adventure as an intuitive.
That's a very good question.
He's like, I gotta go.
There, I guess there were two chapters of my life. There was the chapter of doing without knowing, and then having a name for it all. And that's where it kind of everything went nuts, I think, at that point. But I remembered we didn't have the internet. I mean, it was like 4-bit, 8-bit, whatever it was back then. I remember when the internet was just starting and it was in like DOS or something. And I had a friend of mine trying to show me, like, oh, you can get a recipe to make this thing online. I don't know, some childhood contraption like a potato gun or something like that. He was like, we can pull the specs for this. And I was like, all right, that's it. So underwhelmed about this. So we didn't have all the information, and the closest books I had, I think it started when I was a kid. My pull, having intuition, I didn't know what I was being pulled towards. And then I had this fascination with hypnosis, is what it was. So Mom, Dad, I want to go to the library. And at 11 years old, I'm looking for hypnosis books. And I don't know if it was a David Copperfield or what it was where I got it from. But I started studying as a kid hypnosis and things like that, in addition to the martial arts, which was opening up energy zones, the ability to move energy and things like those. But it kind of, that was sort of the closest thing I could find at the time because, again, not having the internet, not having people who can explain the things, and then kind of on that path, would just get gut feelings on things like there's going to be a cop up the street here, being a little later driving and things, weird things like that happening, at least to me at that time, and nobody to explain this stuff. And then I remember talking about things. I had an aunt at the time who I was really, really close with, my cousin, her daughter. We were about a year apart, and her mom was always very fascinating. And she used to do every once in a while tarot reads. And it was like this big, ooh, mysterious thing back then. And but there was always this piece of like wanting to know more about it, this fascination. Obviously, the way I was built and what I do today is looking at the future. So when intuitives start out, I always say you're going to have inclinations that you're going to be remarkable at. And some people, it's really good about seeing what's happening, what's going on right now. For other people, it's you have a fascination with the future. You're always looking at the future. And then for other people, always looking at the past and then wanting to do past lives and know who they were and all of the solutions to life being in the past. I mean, we do have this subject called history, and history repeats itself. So each one of these are valid. But again, not knowing what it was, that was the closest thing I had to it. And then something funny happened where I was just around a lot of adults and things would come up, and I was just this kid who had solutions. I equate it to, being in a house, watching an adult friend of mine at the time, their 3-year-old coming over and just dropping some knowledge of like, of like, you're not happy enough in life. Wait, what? What do you know about this? And it, being around that stuff, I was probably a little bit like that towards adults. And then I had this one thing I think going for me at the time was I would just say things without thinking about what I was saying. And that was developing what we would call sort of channeling, inner knowing, and things like that. And that's sort of the first parts of the process. Then it was really interesting. So, years being in this, the martial arts, the meditation, opening up gifts and things like that more, and kind of embracing the energy work that we were doing in martial arts, which was known as qigong. So I was just a kid again playing, and somebody would be like, "Oh, I'm injured," or "This is going on," and I'd be like, "Well, let me try this thing, like Mr. Miyagi style," and then putting hands on, not quite, but kind of, and then finding out 2 or 3 days later, they're like, "I'm almost 100%," and it's funny. The doctor said it was going to be like 4 months, and going, "Yeah, it's the stuff." Had no clue about that it could have been me, and just that reputation started to get round a little bit. And then I think what also had happened was each person's their guides and higher selves are one of their jobs is to pull us in contact with other people to fulfill soul contracts for this lifetime. And sometimes it's reflective, sometimes it's life obstacle and those type things. And your guides are like, "Hey, guides B, bring your person over here." And sometimes it's an ordeal to get them over here, but we connect with people, and that stuff starts to happen. So what had happened a lot with me, and I started to know this pattern again without having a title of spiritual world, intuition, all that stuff, of a lot of people just gravitating towards me and then getting the famous line of going, "I've never told anyone about this in my life, but blah, 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 blah," and just going on it. It's sort of like they had a moment of wanting to pause and not say, and then it was there. And then, "What do you think?" And then me going, "Well, this is what I got." And just kind of going on that process. Then there, sort of my whole introduction into the spiritual world, I want to say there was probably a person around this, but where it came from, I came across a book. I think it was called, well, funny story. I had a friend of mine who had this miracle of how this happened. He had just moved into a place and he didn't have roommates. I think it was a studio or something like that. It was set up. And then one day he comes home and there was this book on his nightstand, and it changed his life. And I'd never heard about spiritual books or anything else. Like I said, the closest approximation I had was the hypnosis books or whatever that other crazy stuff I was looking at the time. And he had shared about this book, how it changed his life, and how it was like it just magically appeared. He never bought the book. Nobody had access to his place. The book ended up on his nightstand. And then here we are. Alessandro's like, "I need that." I don't even know what the book name is. I don't know anything else about it. And the book, I think it was called Super Beings, and it might have been by the author's name was Price or something like that. But from the second I cracked open that book, and this is way before there were any other books on this stuff that I'd come across, and I cracked open the book and I was hooked on it, that we had these hidden abilities and how the world really works and things like that. And I was done. I was in. Now, all the things I've been doing for all these years had an explanation. And that's kind of the whole thing. And I started sort of like looking and extracting some of the things they were saying in the book, like our ability. At the time, I didn't know to control our creator fields, but that was what I was really drawn to, is that stuff, is the idea that I was in control of everything in my life. made sense. It resonated on the deepest of deep levels. And that just threw everything open. And then I think the internet was getting a little more accessible and all these other things at the time. And it just went crazy from there. So that would be kind of a little bit of a different origin story, I guess.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely new aspects of it. That's so fascinating. I just had like a vision of me meeting you at that time. Like I just couldn't even imagine like Alessandro then versus Alessandro now.
Oh, yeah.
Would you say those are two different people?
I would say that, I mean, a lot changed. Back then, in those early stages of my life, I grew up not feeling special, which I find a lot of spiritual beings do. And mine came from the funniest thing in the world, though, at least in my mind, that I was good till about 4 years old, around there, and it was like one sister, and then two, and then three, and then four. And being a kid, not understanding that there are only so many hours of time in a day, and that your parents can only give so much with it. So if they've got 2 hours of availability, your time is going to drop from an hour or 2 hours in the beginning, and it will drop down to 10 minutes. And then at the 10-minute mark, I was like, well, I must not be special. They've lost interest in me. And that's started a whole slew of things. So back then, that became my biggest challenges. And I guess the thing that most got me on this path was dealing with unsolvable problems, dealing with nobody in the world ever talking about, there is a way that you can understand that you are special. There is a way that you can control relationships and all these things. And it was from having a buffet of problems and things that the world kind of said there were no solutions for. Again, my inner knowing was like, I'm not okay with this. And that pursuit came out. So what you were talking about is back then it was all knowing, but the human form of it was not rooted in much. And probably even tried to root to, I give great information, or I can know things that's helpful to people. And those are all normal things. But the biggest thing that put me where I am today, and Guided Light Healing and all the people who've been a part of that, was my level 10 obstacles throughout my life. And they I my stories compared to other people, I had like tenfold more problems, tenfold more things going on, and no solutions. So that set me out there crazy with a fascination for the science, the physics of the universe. And I was like, how do I solve this? Everyone says it can't be solved, but I'm going to find a way. And that's sort of what it was. So I had that hunger and that desire. But me back then, I when I transitioned to helping, giving advice, channeling information, I was in. But outside of that, completely different person. I would have been an introvert at that point in my life. And you would have been like, that guy is going to do crazy things in front of crowds of people. Yes.
That's so interesting that like through this connecting with self, we realize these new aspects of the self, and it's almost hard for that. I don't know if we call it like the old version of ourselves to even realize like what our potentials are. So I'm wondering at what point in your life was that? So like let's say there's moment when you felt like you had like maybe a proper spiritual awakening, or was it more gradual? Like what point in your life was like, oh, got it. I'm the creator of my reality. I'm in.
I think when it was explained to me in that book, like they were all the things I knew, but didn't have vocabulary for and words for and all that stuff. And then it was sort of an all in one solution of like, these are all the ways to heal these things that have been going on in your life, and had a lot of success with a lot of other things. My guides were great at the time, having guides back then. They would pull in random people who there would be, again, like that moment of clarity where a 2-year-old just says the most profound thing of like, source doesn't judge you, and you're like, what do you know about source? And having those moments where somebody was talking to me, and it was just, again, it was this thing I could see that was like, oh, this isn't coming from them. And I would get spoon fed those little moments here and there. And these are all things that kind of primed me. But I think where it went nuts again was when I had a context of this is a thing in a book, and then just was like, what other books are out there, and went nuts with this stuff. And just, it was sort of like, I tell people all the time that we have these inner knowings, these rememberings from past lives on a deep, deep, deep soul level of things we used to do before. And that was sort of what it was, is all these things I knew it. Not having the human vocabulary for it was a little difficult, but I knew the stuff was there, and that was the big piece. It's like if you were a master blacksmith in a past lifetime, you just getting around metal and heat and things like that, you would have this just inner knowing of like, I feel like I can do this. I feel like it's possible. And it's because you've got that soul memory of that stuff. So it wasn't just this lifetime I had this stuff. I've had a few past lives, and it was that stuff that sort of started the unconscious program and all the things, all the crazy things I went through. But then it turned over to a conscious desire, and the labeling, like I said, around that time of that book, I would say is where it was like, I know exactly what I'm looking for. It has a name, and now I can go investigate these things. And I loved the research part of it. I loved talking to other people about it. It was just, couldn't get it. I described it at that time in my life, and I was young. I was like maybe 20, 21. I was like, I don't know. I can't explain it, but it is literally, it is my oxygen. If I were to stop this, I would lose the ability to breathe, and that would be it. And then it was like, if I had to choose between the two, again, me being around that age, I was like, I think I would choose the new spiritual stuff and not the oxygen. So I had this deep knowing of how important it was back then.
Gosh, I relate to that so deeply because for so much of my life, things excited me and maybe brought me a little bit of happiness, but I always wondered why it didn't bring me the levels of happiness, like whatever activity it might be. Like my brother would love to ride bikes, and my friends like to skateboard, and even I played basketball growing up, and I always felt like something was missing. I actually love music, as you know, but when I discovered this world of creation and living a life that's in accordance with our spirit and the higher self, I totally relate to that feeling of like this is more exciting to me than breath itself. So this is great. My next question, it might seem a little bit simple, but it's sort of a part two question. I want to sort of I want to speak to someone that might be new in this world, and I also want to speak to the skeptic. So if you're speaking to both of them at the same time, right? How would you describe intuition? What is intuition speaking to both parties?
Well, the good news is most of the advanced people with intuition don't understand the foundations of intuition. So I would start the
Right,
same way
right.
with both people.
Perfect. This is for everybody.
But I would I would say a few things. I would say everyone experiences intuition. I would say if you've ever had a job and you had coworkers and you experienced maybe for a month, 6 months, or a year or two, things were great. And then one person comes in who is mad at the world, is in deep, deep, deep fear, pain, whatever it is. And then that whole environment from the first day they walk in, it changes 20, 25%. They didn't say anything, they didn't do anything, they're not talking to anyone yet, but we're all in a different place magically because of this. So that is a form of intuition. There are these emotions that are being broadcast, the emotion field, and we're aware of that and we pick up on that. And then there is also the thing that a lot of people, they also experience, where they've got that parent moment where they either know, you will hear a mom go, I just know Larry's doing something he's not supposed to be doing right now. I can tell you he's in the cupboard. I can tell you he's raiding this thing and he found my money. And the mom will check in on it an hour later, and it was exactly what was happening at those times. So that is an example of intuition, being able to feel. So what I explain intuition as is we have these bodies that every time a new invention comes out in the world, it wreaks havoc on us. You can almost trace out between every new invention that came out in the world some plague or something that happened to humanity as a result. And what it is all things give off these electric fields, these force fields, and things like that, and it disrupts our fields. That is also intuition. So it's sort of intuition is how the physical world around us, forces and things like that, interact with us. Electricity, we know, interacts with us. People are finding out that if they grew up under power lines or used cell phones up to their heads, they might have these small or great tumors. So all of these things are influencing us. So what I explain intuition is, it's something we're all doing daily. Animals do it right in front of our face. We do it with animals. We do it with when somebody in our family, when a mom goes, I just know something's wrong. And 15 doctors go, no, 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 you're crazy. And then the 16th doctor that they find at the at the most of their despair, they're going, you're right, you were right about this and this thing. So what I explain intuition as is, it's the same thing as reading Braille, in that there are these things that we can feel with our fingers that if we memorize the patterns and height and things like that, we can start to translate and know what it is. And that is what intuition is we were always feeling things. And what you'll start to realize is that there's the most specifics, like thousands of times more specific. The things we can feel from something are that much more specific than what we can articulate, than what we have words to explain. So intuition is the feeling into all the things that keep you alive, like your fight or flight. For you'll walk out into the street, know something is wrong, and then sure enough, there's somebody out there with the intent to mug or something like that. It's essentially learning to read Braille. It's learning to feel the things out there. But here's where it gets even more cool. So we've got that process of it. It's learning to read Braille. Anyone can do it. We are already doing it. But here's the fascinating piece. The fascinating piece is how our bodies are engineered and how our bodies work. Our eyes, contrary to what everyone believes, and probably I don't remember the exact time, but I was like, oh, this makes all the sense in the world. When I figured out our eyes do not see pictures, they see frequency, they see vibrations, they see all of these details, but they do not see pictures. They're kind of like measuring devices, is what our eyes are. And they take all these different bits of data, but they're not seeing a picture. The picture happens when your eyes bring in, we'll say, 14 pieces, different kinds of data, measurements, and things like that. Your brain puts it together and then puts a picture to that. So this whole process happens. But again, this part of intuition is everything is giving off broadcasts and forces, and our eyes can see all these things. The limitation being what our brain has seen before is what it can actually put a picture to. But our eyes are seeing so many things. They even have this surgery where you can put some kind of adjustment chip in your eyes and you can actually see similar things to like when you're on acid. You can see more of the spectrum and all these other things. So we're built for intuition, and your eyes are reading all these details. It's your fingers feeling the bumps on the paper. It's just our brains were the limiting factor in going, well, if I don't know this exists, I can't create a picture to it. And I always go to the example of where Native Americans saw people walk out of the sea. What they couldn't see, because they had never seen before, are these great big ships that were next to the men as they were walking out of the sea, because the eyes pulled in all of these things. There were some new measurements the eyes had never seen before. The brain had no context of it. And then so therefore the brain could not register, couldn't form a picture to that. So man walked out of the sea. So it's our brain being the limiting thing, but all of our senses are built to read intuition. So this would be sort of my, at all levels, advanced and beginner. What you need to know about intuition is we are built to do it. That's it. Every part of our body does it. And the other fascinating piece, our brain taking all of this data and putting a picture to it, so creating a story. So sound, touch, taste, smell, all these things together, all these other things, our brain is actually on a delay. So if you've ever talked into a microphone and your voice was behind, that's actually what's happening. So to fix that process, our brains are actually predicting what is going to happen before it happens. And that is sort of why we think our everything is in real time, but it's not. We're actually we're some milliseconds behind everything. And that may not seem a lot, but when you've got these guys who can catch arrows and things with their hands and do these other amazing things, technically the arrow is already hit before the brain even registers it. So the brain's able to predict things before they happen, and that's how we can be present and not like on a permanent delay with everything in life, which that would be very interesting. So that would be my kind of start on intuition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so fascinating. I think like again for the beginner or the seasoned intuitive to hear things in a new way is always exciting. So intuition, so it has this ability for us to predict the future, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what would you say? This is something that I've been curious about, and I just feel like some of the listeners are also curious about. You have someone that might be a skeptic that goes, okay, Alessandro, I'm interested in this world. Intuition sounds exciting, this ability to just sort of feel and read. I love the analogy like Braille. They're going, then what should stop me from booking a session with either Alessandro or Nicky and and I just simply ask you for the lottery numbers.
So everything is a recipe, and it's like this. This is perfect recipe. So I
Okay,
remember I
great.
was
I
at
can't wait for this answer.
yeah,
Sorry, go
this is
ahead.
great. I remember I was at this very, very nice restaurant, and it was like a Japanese American fusion, steaks, sushi mixed with like all this other stuff. Well, they had this soup that it was a corn chowder, but it was the kind of soup that you would stab somebody for. Maybe. Probably. It was so good. It even had like popcorn on top of it. This is how complex this sucker was. Never had anything like it in my
I
life.
don't know if that sounds good. Popcorn and is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so like a corn chowder with like
Okay.
popcorn on top
Oh, I
and
see.
just
Okay.
done right.
Okay.
So I was like blown away, senses blown, everything blown. I was like, this is even more got to be the world's greatest restaurant. So then I go to the waiter. I was like, this is the best soup I've ever had in my life. I was like, I would do maybe questionably anything to have this recipe. The waiter's like, I'll give it to you. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, you guys are gonna give your famous recipe for something I've never had this good in my life before. You're going to give that? Yeah. Just one thing though. Yeah, sure, anything. It's 78 ingredients. Nope. Pass. Ain't nobody got time for that. Nope. I will come back here and he's like, that's it's seasonal. I was like, damn it. Still didn't get the recipe because it's that specific. So even if I were an incredible chef with intuition, no way I could figure out those 78 ingredients to get that exact recipe for the soup. So, where I'm going with this whole thing is that the lottery numbers are specific muscles, specific skill sets. Everything's got a different recipe, which means everything's got different strengths, uh, amounts of time, measurement, and all these other things. It's a very, very specific recipe. Is it possible? 100%. Could you dial it in? Yes. Is it worth it for you to maybe take 10 or 15 years, just like it might take for that soup to figure out the ingredients and engineer and get it perfectly? Maybe not. Maybe it's more worth it to work on your soul pass, soul pull, and just generate the amount of money that you could have won with the lottery, and you'll feel better about how the money came in versus going,
Right.
the lottery.
Right. Well, that's such a great analogy too, because like probably the only way that you're going to be able to develop that skill set in identifying what the lottery numbers will be is by getting on the soul pass soul pull. It's like that's like the only. It's like if you want to know the exact ingredients for that one recipe, it's like well, it's probably going to require you to get really good at becoming a chef, and it's going to take a lot of time. Another analogy that comes to mind about the lottery numbers, it's kind of like you can use you can compare intuition like shooting a basketball in a hoop. It is totally possible to shoot a basketball in a hoop, like shoot a layup, shoot a free throw, shoot a 3-pointer. Is it possible to shoot a full court shot? Yes. It's just going to take a little bit more practice, more strength, developing that skill set.
What is
Is the
it?
same.
The Harlem Globetrotters? They
Yeah.
master that skill set.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like chucking it from full court. It's like it's
Yeah.
in, which is
Yeah.
like such a unique skill set. But okay, that's a really great question. That's really great answer.
Yeah, it's again, anything can be cracked, and this is what
Yeah.
I think one of our contributions to the world has been at Guided Light Healing is we have developed a type of intuition that is like a science precise measuring instrument, and we've broken down a lot of these processes. I mean, I could give me a couple minutes and I'll tell you exactly how many different components it would take. It's over 100 plus to be able to get the lottery numbers, and then we could learn each one by one, and you could actually do it. It's just, again, like we're talking about, probably not worth it.
That's oh my gosh, I love that answer. It's such a great answer. Man, I keep looking at this next question. Yeah, I know what the next question is. So it has to do with this topic. So intuition, it ultimately allows us to live life that is more in accordance with our soul path, our soul pull, our purpose, and things of that nature. And what I find, and this has to do with any skill set, I think, in developing it, is that if intuition ultimately brings us higher levels of clarity, it seems as if developing your intuition can also, through the process, through that challenging process, also elicit a little bit of overthinking. Like I sort of like to think of intuition like any sort of relationship. Like if you're with a person in a romantic relationship, ultimately that person can amplify your own love and happiness, but there's also challenges that it's going to reflect. So I was hoping you can elaborate on that in any way that you'd like to go with it, like this idea. Intuition's meant to bring us clarity, but in the journey, in the adventure, in strengthening the relationship with this innate self, it can also bring about some overthinking to get to that place of clarity. I didn't ask a question, but feel free to go where you want with this.
Well, obstacle, I hated it when I was younger, and
Yeah, obstacles, hate them.
hated them. But then there was this place in time where I cracked a code on obstacles, and I realized that there were two things that brought about an obstacle: a wish and an imbalance. The imbalance, simply put, was I was doubting somehow myself. The potentials
Interesting.
yeah, the potentials I originally had for myself, I now slipped down on those. And then, so with this whole recipe in obstacles, the wish is going, I want to get to this place in my life. Okay, great. Well, if you're not there today, and this is again a thing people struggle with, but it's really, really simple in principle. If you're not in the career you want today, then you are doing and missing some things to be there. Something is missing. It's not everyone in the spiritual world goes, I'm ready now, though. I'm ready now. If you were ready now, if you were genuinely ready now, it would be happening right now. So if it's not,
Such a good point.
we have to look at something is missing here. And it's just talk about the science of it. If you don't have it, then you don't have it. It's like, I want a steak, but I don't have steak. But I've got all the other recipe ingredients. You're not having steak. The steak dinner is not existing right now. So that's kind of the idea with intuition, is that there is this need to be growing with intuition all the time to expand our gifts, because if you can know more today, you can know more tomorrow, and you can better navigate how to get there on your soul path, soul pull. But without the obstacle, without getting things wrong, you'll never think of what is right to ask. So one of the things I talk about with intuition, as much as possible, it's kind of like kids and going to school, college. It's like if the parent were so strict in the beginning before the kid went to college, and it was like a military academy, and the kid was straight laced, man, you set them in college for a week, and they've got like people smoking bongs down the hall or whatever the kids do these days, and like rollerblading to the halls.
I had friends just like that with their parents being super strict and then being sent off on their own. And it's like a disaster. I'm like, oh my
Disaster.
gosh.
And
Yeah.
men, women did not matter. They all went down there. This is
Right.
where
Right.
the freshman 15, freshman 20s came in.
Totally. Yeah.
So they go crazy. And the idea, though, when you got a wild child who was a handful for the parents, maybe did some drugs it before leaving high school and everything, and by some miracle made it through, they got to college and they're like, idiots, did that when I was 14, did that at 13, don't care about that, see that every day. Like, oh, you're so young, is what you're going to college with. And you're like, now I'm going to get down and get to business and make some stuff happen. So it's the same thing with intuition, that in the beginning, people shoot themselves in the foot because they go, I want to try and get it perfect. Because if I don't get it perfect, it probably means that, well, I can tell you for sure, it means I shouldn't be doing this. So we start intuition wanting to get everything right. And then what happens is we get a little more advanced. We run into our first obstacle. We've got no tools to overcome the obstacle. And then it becomes this permanent block for us with intuition. So the thing I usually explain a lot in the beginning to intuitives, I was like, do it and find the ways that it doesn't work, where you're emotional and all these things. And then ask yourself the question, what new way can I do it that will allow me to hop over this point? And it's this problem solving process that if we bring early on to intuition, we're used to having it in the beginning. And then let's say we make it past the point of getting the bigger obstacles with intuition, being wrong on this. I was supposed to get this job, or this was supposed to be my partner, being wrong on those things. They don't cripple us and end us, and then we never go back to intuition. So what happens is later on with intuition, everybody is going to reach this place where they're in foreign land, foreign territory, foreign inventions. And if you're not used to struggling and pushing through to get the information, so let's say we're trying to figure out that corn soup, if I hadn't taken on anything like that and been in struggle a lot of years with it, I'm going to start to panic and go, this soup is impossible. I'm never going to get it. And I would quit. But if I've got a year or two of going, a lot of wins, a lot more losses, and then I can look at, well, I know better than anybody at this point how to create a loss. What if I just don't do the things that are a loss anymore? And that's sort of the genius I think I found over the years, is like, I know all the ways to mess up something. And it's not
Same.
it's not like I'm really good at what I do. I'm just really good at my fight or flight system is like pain, 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 pain. This must
Right.
be reward.
Right.
So the whole process with intuition is, I would say, the obstacles are upgrades on wanting to get to those levels. So today, could I intuit out with just a little bit of time all the ingredients of a corn chowder soup? Absolutely. These are things I can do because I'm not afraid of challenges anymore. I know that once you get to a certain level of your genius, which everyone has, you're going to be in an uncharted territory. Nobody's going to have the answers, and then it's going to be how you were built to handle pressure and the unknown that's going to accelerate you there. So my kind of input on that is going, I get it in the beginning that you've put a lot of money on the line, probably train your intuition, so you're invested in all these things. And I also get the human response of the world's like, you're weird because you're doing something that's not true or whatever. So I get that. And then I get this for almost every spiritual being, I'm not special. That is a hard combination to push through. But if you can go, I'm heart led, I know I'm supposed to do this. And if it looks bad, it doesn't mean I'm bad at this. I'm getting all my struggle out of the way early. So I know what not to do when I get to a more intermediate, advanced, and someday professional level. It changes the whole game with it. Like our intuitive programs at Guided Light Healing, shock and awe, chaos, and everyone hates it. Like they're like, this is too much. This is like the simplest things in the world people hate. Like we have this thing where listening to sounds and people are like, I can't do it. I was like, you've been listening to sounds your whole life. What do you mean you can't listen to a sound and listen deeper? And they're like, I can't do it. And they're all broken up with this stuff. But our program is designed to overwhelm, to break down and do all these things. And then one day, usually halfway, three-quarters of the way through, they're like, is this working? Am I getting this? Yes, because we've pushed them through that. Struggle doesn't mean you're bad. Struggle just means you're accelerating faster than you're ready to handle. But you'll catch up on it. It's like playing sports. If you're a high school player, but you're constantly playing with professionals on a paid team, you're going to get your butt kicked.
Right. Right.
But what also is going to happen is you're going to grow so much faster than if you're playing with people who don't push you to be better. So that's sort of one of the things I would say would be useful for everyone with regard to intuition.
Okay, this I love all of this. What do you say to the person, right? And the analogy is great because I thought about that sports analogy before as well. What do you say to that person that's going, well, Alessandro, I'm a little bit like beat up by the obstacle, by the challenge, meaning like I'm hanging out with these professional sports players and I'm not, level. I don't feel like I'm leveling up. At least, like,
Right.
is it possible for challenge to actually bring us down and go, stray us away from our soul path, soul pull, the thing that we were built to do in this world?
Yes, there's a huge if, and this will do
Bum, bum, bum.
it. Come back to next week's episode and we will get
Yeah,
into
we'll see.
that.
Exactly. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks for listening.
The big if is this: you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan. You got
This
to
is
have
good.
a new piece of information to throw in the pot of
Okay.
trying to make this work.
This is good.
So it's like I'm playing with these professionals and I keep on getting blindsided, right? So my plan is, okay, I'm going to find new ways to be aware on the field. I'm going to start to talk about, I don't know, players' eye color. Like at all times I got to name 3 eye colors who are around me, right? A different type of awareness. I've never done that before. And then the question is, if I have greater awareness, am I going to get blindsided and checked, hit, whatever by somebody else on the field? Probably not. So I'm going to assess what skill set am I lacking in? What is a way, a tool that I can crack and go further with that skill set? And then if I've picked it right, now I'm not running into the same problems because I identified the weak muscle. I have a plan on how to overcome the weak muscle. And then this is what the process is for me. So for me, it's always asking, like, okay, what's the thing holding me back? When I was younger, it would have been Alessandro's an introvert. Like, cool as a cucumber on the outside. Inside, it's like whoo, chaos, volcanoes, and all the stuff going on. You would never know, though. So, what's holding me back? Well, how can people know me if I don't share the volcanoes and all these things? So I had to start taking a risk of like, here's something I would never say to a person. Here's something else I would never say to a person, and going down that road. And then one day I was like, man, I've told hundreds of thousands of personal stories now. Sure, I've done it. I could do this in front of a group of people, and that's sort of where it is. But that's the thing I would say is it's defeating if your definition of insanity in it and going, I'm just going to do the same thing. Eventually it's going to crack. Eventually it's going to
Yeah.
break.
Yeah, and there are certain people I know out there in the world that are sort of like cockroaches. That's sort of their gift, but the sort of loophole stuck they experience is not integrating new. So how would you use this analogy, which I love, which is sports, and speaking to the intuitive? Because I think a lot of listeners that are in our communities have begun this process of developing their intuition, and they might experience this honeymoon phase. They're beginning to do intuitive readings on themselves, on others, and I feel like there are layers to obstacles. Like when I first learned how to play the guitar, it was like impossible at first to do a bar chord. Then I got it, and the floodgates opened for me to begin to write more songs. And then there's just new layer of obstacle to the point I was like, all right, I'm done. So, what would you say specifically with in regards to intuition, how to begin to integrate the new, and then when you experience new layers of obstacle in regards to intuition, what's the protocol?
I think it's understanding what each obstacle means. There's different types of obstacles. So, one of the things that people don't know with intuition, and what I see, I kind of want to say a bit, it's got its benefits, but a bit of a disservice I see a lot of intuitive teachers out there doing for to their students and people who are interested is they're saying there's one develop one powerful gift and you'll be a great intuitive. Well, here's the problem I have with that. Okay, I talk about intuition a lot as water, river, and it's got all of these options that it can be doing. And let's say this water is trying to find its way back to the ocean from central land. It's trying to find its way, and there's this big old mountain in the way of it. And water's powerful, cut through basically anything. It can wear away rock, and it can make its way through the mountain. So if it goes under, and we'll say that's intuition going that way, we can get answers, but probably not answers that have to do with sunlight. probably not answers that have to do with foxes and squirrels and things like that, meaning like these types of things. What you're probably going to see is like these cool alien beings and glow creatures and things like that as you're going through. Maybe there's no light whatsoever. Maybe it's just sounds going through the mountain. So your higher self is going, oh, dang it. The story we have to tell, all of the information, it involves sunlight, it involves animal creatures, not the slime creatures and things like that that might be under the mountain or going through the mountain. This is not the way to tell the story. So what water will do in that moment, what intuition will do is, if you listen, the better way is to go around the mountain, because you got the squirrels, you got the sunlight, you got the light and dark, you got stars, you got all the other things that are a part of the story, that if you go through the mountain with that, you cut it all out and you're only getting a piece of the picture. So you need to understand with intuition that when it's like water, and sometimes it's better to go in a different path. So when you get blocked in an area, the idea is you want to change gifts, because it's that gift that's got the information, the language, the way to explain the color, the details that the other gift doesn't have. So having
Interesting.
one gift, you're going to lose 70% of the story. If you got a second gift and my first gift turns off, doesn't work, then maybe it means let me try with the second gift, and the second gift is, you know, the way to the Wizard of Oz, you know, which is not through the mountain, it's around. And now we get to see flying monkeys and all these things going around this path, and that is a part of the full intuitive communication where going through the mountain is not. So the first thing is this idea that you're going to do it with one intuition. You're most of the time going to have 20% of the story that you could have if you had just changed your gifts.
Okay, this is great. So what you're saying is basically if you have like multiple tools in your toolkit, as far as pulling intuitive information, there are going to be moments where maybe your primary way of pulling intuitive information is blocked, or your secondary way of is blocked. And if you develop like this, all these different tools, you can begin to use them in ways that you won't ever be blocked.
That's exactly right. And
Kinda, yeah. Okay.
look at it this way. If you had to, hopefully, you guys out there know enough about this, but you're looking at, I want to hang this picture. I've got a screw in the wall that's about to go, it's just sitting in, but not enough to support weight. Are you going to use a hammer to screw in that nail? No, it's not going to do its job. You're probably going to hammer it in, and it's going to break the drywall, and it becomes an episode of New Girl or something like that, where the whole wall's cracked and things like that, trying to hang one photo when Jess was like, don't hang the photo while I'm gone because you guys suck at this. And then the whole wall's falling apart. Or you're going to pick up a screwdriver to screw the nail into the wall. That's what it is you wouldn't use a hammer for that job. And this is what people try to do with like channeling, or they try to do with muscle testing, or whatever it is. They're doing this. Every type of intuition, what we teach, has a special purpose. It's got a language. It's got sort of like a map key on it, and things that are going to be helpful and things that might be outside of its use in these areas. So if people understood it that way, a lot of intuitives, I go, I'm not getting anything. I'm like, well, you're not supposed to get anything, because what you get here is technically going to be wrong, because it's only going to be 20%. So your higher self is actually turning off that gift as a form of intuition to get you to pursue getting the information from a different place. So a stop, a block is not a block. A block is a change direction. And to be able to change direction, you need to use that gift in different ways or have different gifts. And this is why we teach, sort of in our level 1 programs, why we teach 6, 7 plus different types of intuition, because when one shuts off, a normal person is going to go, oh, I'm not good at this. I can't get the information when I want to. But a person who is trained this way is going to go, oh, this is fine. Just means I'm supposed to use a different gift. It's a completely different process of going, I'm going to find my way to the ocean no matter what. Nothing is going to stop me. And that's where water comes in, is it will find its way. It will go through anything to get back there. Intuition should be the same thing. Is there's no on or off. It's just change directions. And most people, they are not flexible. They do not want to go in different directions, or they just had teachers who did them a disservice, who was like, there's only one way to do this. Akashic Records. Wonderful. And that's where that comes from.
Okay, that's that. I'm just. I had another sports analogy in my head that works for what you're talking about. I guess it's worth sharing it. I almost didn't, but I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna anyway. It's sort yeah. It's sort of like becoming a high performing athlete. And if we were using basketball as an analogy, if you just develop the skill set as a shooter, well, the defense could easily begin to like figure out, why that would how to stop that. And if you didn't, develop the skill set of passing and dribbling and all these other things, you would be blocked. And then you might begin to think, well, I'm not a great shooter, when really it's just that there's all these different ways to increase your skill set as a high performing athlete, this analogy being basketball.
But
So go ahead.
that's right though. I'm not a good shooter. That's exactly what people go to
Sure.
is
Right, right,
and
right.
they're not taking into I've got way more pressure as a shooter now because I was doing so good. They're not taking that into account. They're just going, I never make my shots, not realizing that it's so much more difficult. And it's just crazy. Like I had this happen the other day. So I've been in the I've been in the let's change everything in Alessandro's life phase for 30 years, but a lot this year,
My
like,
whole life.
but I always have this thing of like my intuition's like, come on, buddy, come on, you're gonna like this eventually.
Right.
So I've started
Eventually, keyword.
so I've started a lot of things that I would never have chosen to do. I started jujitsu this year because again my intuition was like you're gonna love it, and it's been 2 months and I'm going, Alessandro does not love this. He does not love the pain. He does not love injury list,
That cracks
uh,
me up.
all those things. And then shooting was the other one for a bunch of reasons. Shooting is like martial arts. It's next level martial arts because the amount of certainty and I can handle anything that goes to relationship and business and to the crazy world that comes from that, which goes into your creative field and the law of focus. It is a game changer. I have tons of clients and students around the world doing this, and their careers are happening so much faster. Their relationships are so much more sound and everything else. But I have been doing it for a while, and because I used intuition, cracked the code on a lot of it, and I've gotten very, very good quick. What should have taken 3 to 5 years, I've done in months. And I've been doing like people around me have been like, this is insane. It never happens. Like, how are you doing this? So there's this little bit of like, I got this. I got this. And then the other day, we started to integrate sort of an impossible thing, an unheard of thing, like being accuracy while running and shooting at the same time. So it's not like stop and shoot, like the video games. It's literally, can you be accurate? Can you hit a 2-inch target 20 feet away while it's running 70%? And for me, it's like, damn it, I can't do this. But I forget in perspective that nobody can do this. And I'm training to do something and it's fine on this thing. So it's it's a lot of taking things to a new level, understanding that whatever you were great at, if you're doing it right, you're gonna suck again. And same thing I practiced with intuition. I was like, where can I make my intuition fail, right? And it's like, okay, I'm gonna crack the code, the recipe for winning lotteries. Great, I know it's a big challenge, and I know if I could do it, I will have grown and I'll have achieved something that nobody else has ever done. And then that is going to give me a whole new level of being able to take on the world and do those things. So it's really really interesting this process, but one of the things I like to say is that if you hit some level of genius in your life, you should take on the most challenging obstacles in the world. But we do the opposite. We're like, when I'm not a genius, I'm going to take on the hardest obstacles and won't be able to solve them because I'm not a genius. And then when we get to genius, everyone's like, retirement city. I'm done. So,
Okay. Go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead. Were
So,
you gonna keep? Were you gonna keep
yeah.
going?
So,
Okay. Good.
so
Good.
with that process, that's one of the things that intuition, we always get scared when our intuition says, oh, we should do this thing and it doesn't work out well. But as you get better, it's only the challenges that are going to bring you the gifts and the knowledge that you didn't have before that, because probably there's no books out there, probably there's nobody out there who can explain how it's done. So these are things to expect with intuition and other forms of life. And just because it sucks doesn't mean it's the wrong path, is sort of one of the big things. Like, I have people test all the time. I got a no or I got a yes on this, but then I got a parking ticket that day in this thing. And I'm going, well, sure, on the surface, it looks like that. But that parking ticket in 6 months is going to help you expand your business by 20% more. And it's going to
Yeah.
open up all these things. So,
The yeah, that's that, and I'm really glad that you brought that up. Where you can make an intuitive decision, and on the surface, you don't see how this is like creating more goodness in your life. And I've had it, and because we get to work together, which is like, uh, where I've showed up in sessions with you. Why did this happen? You're like, dude, it's fine. It's bigger picture. Go bigger picture. And so the more that I've learned to like see the bigger picture and see how this is contributing and look through that intuitive lens, it makes it all worth it. So something that I took, this is going to seem a little bit random, but it's not. It still kind of has to do with intuition, and I actually want to get into reflections a little bit, and then dive a little bit into some esoteric stuff. But my, and then be here for another 10 hours. So you said something along the lines of there's some sort of technology where we can begin to access like an acid like experience. Now, for me personally, throughout my life, I just haven't had an intuitive pull to go down that path of having those experiences with psychedelics or plant medicine and things of that nature. And then the more I begin to learn about how there's a thinning of the veil and it can invite heavy energy on you, it really pushed me away. But I've never really had that pull. But because I've always felt deep within myself, and I remember having this feeling when I was a teenager, and all my friends were engaging with marijuana, mushrooms, acid, all these other things, right? I remember having this feeling that we could maybe meditate and access that feeling. And, I'm bringing it now in the discussion as we're talking about intuition. Is there a way with our intuition, creating space within the mind, that we can experience those high levels of consciousness without engaging with those substances, while having high levels of source protection, not inviting dark forces on our energy and things of that nature?
no.
What?
Yes, no, I'm joking.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, I'm experiencing one of my intuitive, challenging moments where my intuition since I was a kid is just gone. You're like, nope. Okay. This is,
The
God.
the answer is yes. One of the limitations being the brain. So you have to teach the brain how to make sense of the information. So this is, you need intuition to have that type of intuition, is kind of what it comes down to.
Okay.
So what we do is, think of your third eye, which is the thing, the part of us, the organ that allows us to see very, very specific things, that allows us to see, into the fifth dimension, sixth dimension, and things that the normal eye can't see. The stronger the third eye is, you'll start to see images on top of images. They look like light holographs at first, and then they become more and more detailed. What dictates how this process goes is how much weight your third eye can lift. It is a muscle. So if in the beginning you can't see anything, it means that muscle's very, very weak. It's like me trying to go to like a bike exercise class or something and going, oh, I'm the big bad guy. I'm gonna go lift 30 pounds for this, and not, after pedaling for 15 minutes, not being able to like even take the weights out of the seat and going, well, that didn't work. So it's this idea that we have to train our muscles. I have to start with 1 pound to get to two to four, four to eight, and so on. So we have to do the same thing with the third eye. Is one of the exceptions to a lot of different types of intuition, is that is the one that really puts into physical form reading that braille. And if it's weak, we're not going to see anything. So, how do we develop that? Well, we have to know what's there. And then you can only know what's there. So, if it's like, oh, this person's got two guides, well, if you don't know there's two guides, you're just going to make it up, and you're probably never going to work that muscle. It's trying to lift 35 when I can only lift 1 pound. So, what I want to do is I want to use my other gifts of intuition to know what's there. And then what I want to do is I want to expand my third eye to see what I know for there is for sure there with my other gifts. So it's sort of the increasing the weight a tiny bit on factual things versus not having this system. So this is why we teach yes or no intuition first, is because you can verify something's there, and then you can start to expand the gifts. Well, I know for certain this is here. I know for certain it's standing to the left. I know for certain it's this tall. And then you can start to push your third eye. And when it starts to see this, you're going to go, I know it's accurate. Even if it feels like I'm kind of making this up a little bit, I know it has to be accurate because I've developed this intuition to be so accurate over here. So we can stretch our gifts that way. So anytime somebody comes in and goes, I want to be able to do this, it's a workout routine. And you need one certain type of intuition, something that you believe in, to start to establish and use a workout routine of lifting weights. And then one day you'll be able to see it all. It's sort of like you'll do the opposite. You'll see the picture and then you'll double check with the other type of intuition, go, damn, I'm not making this up. That thing really does got spikes on it and things like that.
There's a flying dog, Alessandro. I am. What does that mean? I'm visualizing a flying dog. Okay, so this is
Uh-huh.
this is a sort of a follow up question to that, which is you can begin to intuitively see more as to what really exists, maybe in the quantum field or wherever, right? Um, I feel like not having the personal experience, but some of these experiences with whatever it may be, marijuana, whatever, right? Like they elicit like an emotional experience, like this emotional experience that feels incredible for certain people for 20 minutes or however long it is. Is that also possible in a meditative state to feel like you're having an experience on drugs?
Yes. Most likely it'll be in that thinning of the veil.
Okay.
Those
Okay.
3 to 5 minutes as you're about to fall asleep and go under, it's
Okay.
sort of the same thing that the drugs do is they roll back that curtain, that sort of wet wool blanket that's over us on a daily basis, and you could do it in that amount of time. So if you wanted to spend more time in this, what you would do is you would spend time in that zone. We'll say between 15 to a few more minutes, spending some time in that place where the veil gets rolled back and spending more time there, starting to get to know it, will open up that gift in a similar way. And yeah, you'll start to have those experiences of going,
Oh,
I'm seeing some stuff. Is that could this be real?
wow. I think there needs to be an offering, a GLH offering, where it's just like how to have a psychedelic experience without actually doing psychedelics. That's yeah.
It's wild. I've some of my profound moments were in that thinning of the veil years after developing my intuition and a similar process, not as good as what we're doing with students at Guided Light Healing, but going through that process, I remember being in some of those moments and seeing things in such vividness. And I'm talking things like from The Conjuring and Evil,
Really?
the
Oh
evil, oh
wow.
yeah, that TV show, like, and seeing those things at the same time, being like, wow,
Yeah.
can I really do this? And then at the same time, it's like, this thing is gonna eat me. I better do something about this.
It's gonna eat
Like,
me.
it's great. Yeah, in good old Dark Forest world. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I knew my intuitive gifts were getting, is it was the most real, a person standing in front of me and the most vivid colors I had ever seen with regard to that stuff. I was like, wow, I think I've done something to my third eye.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fascinating. And I think another, this is, I think will be, I had to find a good segue to this next topic. And I think this is a great segue. One of the, for those that know me, I get pretty silly and I like to have all different kinds of conversations about all different topics. And this topic that we're talking about, which is having an experience that feels almost extraterrestrial, that feels like, you're seeing beyond the veil. I think one of the things that opens up our, maybe our auric field, or maybe you can speak on this and opens up our energy a lot is sex. And I think it's like, whoa, there's that bomb dropped on us. I think it's a topic that I am super fascinated in. And I think that the world doesn't have, enough of a source perspective on the topic of sex. And again, my segue, I just want to make it very clear that I didn't just randomly bring this up, which is, you know, to have a psychedelic experience and sex, they both open up your energy. And so I have a number of different questions that I'd like to ask on the source perspective of sex, but I sort of want to leave it to you to speak on it, and then I can go in and ask some questions about this.
First, it's so funny. I always laugh at the perfection of this, but awkwardness for me. It's like me years ago teaching female anatomy with intuition to a bunch of women. I mean, I know women see me as just
Right.
one of the girls, but you know, I mean, technically, we all have the same organs, just in different places. So there is that. So I can speak to experience there. But it's funny how this topic has come up over the years. We're teaching women about menstrual cycles and the source perspective and source science of that. And recently, this year, this topic of the source, high conscious intimacy and source perspective on sex, how we're actually going to get ready to again, me going, really, it's got to be me on this one, but teach a full-on course around this, because we're
I'll be there.
literally, I mean, if I were to say, we're tapping into 2% of the potentials of intimacy, because here's a few things that happen when you're with another being. Your energies kind of, they merge together, and then your power increases, your frequency goes way up, which means healing sickness and disease is a possibility and likelihood of the right kinds of intimacy. When you raise your frequency that high, the solutions that you're stuck with in life will come, because you're reaching a place that you can't do on your own. You're reaching this higher frequency state, reaching higher frequency source ideas, and now you're able to solve and do things. Not that that's exactly what you want to be doing in the moment, like, hold on, I just I just solved cold fusion, give me a second on this. But things like that could happen in intimacy. So the healing abilities, the ability to amplify, reach your powers and things like that, to expand yourself in ways that you can't do alone, but after you could replicate and expand yourself that way. It's the ability, it's forms of unconditional love, to fully be yourself without all these filters and things.
Right.
So
Right.
we we treat it, a lot of people treat it as this like forbidden thing, this dirty thing, this thing that you're not supposed to embark in, to go down that path. It's like there to tempt us, not there to be this thing. But the idea of what it is in the eyes of source, it is accessing the highest potentials in so many ways. It is, literally fitting your heart inside another heart. It is all of these incredible things that you can't achieve without it. So we literally are utilizing 2% of its potentials, and it's not just feeling close to somebody, or the great feelings that come in pleasure and pain and things like that. That is a piece of the whole thing, and using it to cure sickness and disease, using it to open up parts of yourself like heart and things like that, that would not be possible to open up any other way. There's so much you can do with this.
Okay. This sex.
Yes.
this is this is great. Okay. So this is going to seem like a bit of a conservative question, and I think that's okay because the question is sex made for more than procreation? And you're saying that it is, but I'd like you to
Yeah.
elaborate on that.
Yeah,
It
and
is.
that and I would say like 4% of it was designed for procreation
You're
in the eyes of
there's no
source.
way, Alessandro.
Isn't
There's
that
no
crazy?
way. You're saying 4% was designed for procreation?
Yep, absolutely.
That's fascinating. Keep going. Go
It's,
ahead.
it's reflective. It's, I mean, it brings out everything. I mean, here's some of the things with intimacy. When issues with intimacy come up, it's because it's the only way you can really understand what's happening in your life. So, for example, like men or women having issue getting to climax, it's them not allowing themselves to enjoy aspects of their life. So,
Right.
if that's going on with career, where career is very monotone and it starts to bother you a little bit, you're going to have issues with intimacy. Or if you feel like you're not able to start something that's going to lead to a reward in your life, you're not going to be able to partake in intimacy. So for men and the issues they have there, I mean, the stories, the reflective stories, and I know you want to talk about reflections later, they can only be told during intimacy. And if you take that away, I mean, we are here to grow. We are here for obstacle. And if you take that off the board, we lose 30% of some of the most valuable things in our life that will allow us to access money, our careers, our soul path, soul pull.
Okay, I'm just so fascinated by this idea that it was 4% made for procreation because ultimately I like to think of everything in this universe having a purpose, whether it just be a chair and the four legs that it's meant to stand on and things of that nature and to sit on and all these other things. And so this idea that there is, all these different ways that sex is valuable for us in our life, I just have like so many more questions, and I guess, and you've shared them, which is like it allows us to open our heart, it allows us to increase our frequency and our vibration, and I'm trying to figure out a way to like to word what I'm thinking, but my question is, where's the balance? Meaning, like, are we meant to have multiple sexual partners, right? Or are we meant to find one and have
Ooh.
yeah, like yeah, go ahead and answer
Okay.
that question, even though it was like halfway, but I think you get it.
I think I know where you're going. Well, at least with the
Exactly.
part of this, at least this will be
Yes.
fascinating
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. 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 Okay.
And then you can piggyback or lead me back to water on this one.
I'm excited.
The this idea of multiple partners, it's all acceptable. Like when we say source has
Stop. Are you
no
serious?
judgment, but
Oh,
there's a
okay.
big but.
Okay. Okay.
It's all appropriate. There are contracts for all of it, which means when we were closest to our little god selves before we were in our physical bodies, we've arranged a lot of these things for this lifetime. Okay, so you'll arrange this place and time where you have multiple partners for a year or two, and then hopefully you realize how much of a disaster that can be. And I'll explain why. This usually happens for people who in this dating world, this is the worst thing in the world you can ever do. And the same holds with intimacy. When you're dating six people at once, meaning like going, maybe you're not intimate with all of them, or maybe on the top of sex, you are. Here's the problem: there's this law of whole, and whole has to exist. So, whole, depending on the pieces you have to work with, can be split among two, three, four, five. Now, the thing is, when this dividing of whole happens. So let's say whole right now is funny, is pushes me to be my best self, really, really listens deeply, and is adventurous. Well, if I've got one person, if it's myself and maybe somebody else, if it's just myself, I contain it all myself. But if it's me and another person, that person's got those four qualities. Well, guess what happens if I am dating two people? Funny cannot be split in two people. Funny will go to one person, and the other person will get adventurous. So now, in trying to pick the perfect partner, either sexually or just on a mental level of what I'm looking for an all in one, you've already guaranteed to never be able to see what they're capable of because this law is you've split these attributes. Some have gone over here, some have gone over here. And the one person who took funny, the other person who doesn't have it, they may be five times funnier than the other person, but you get to see them stressed out every time from work and needing to blow off and have adventure because this other person's holding their qualities for them. So now let's add this to six people. So now these six people, these people who are complaining, well, this person's got this. It'd be funny if they were all in one person. I'd be dating the perfect person. All right, idiot. That's exactly how it works is when you add in one more person. So same thing with intimacy. You add in sex into the equation. One person is going to have the deep emotional connection and the other person can't. The other is going to have great moves and the other person can't have great moves. So what I learned over the years and especially was able to verify very quickly and save myself a lot of tears was that I would my advice is always this: go all in on each person and then just decide quickly once you've seen all these qualities. But this, I'm going to cover more ground, date 10 people at once, not going to be intimate or anything, but you're never going to see the potentials of any of these people because you've split this one perfect person into 9 or 10 people. And this is why when everyone's walking around like the people out there suck, like they can't do anything, or they're so one note and blah blah blah, all the things that you will hear out there. And I'm going, guess who's doing that? That's all because of what you're doing.
So find the closest mirror, and I'll introduce you to who's actually responsible for that. So okay, but I would think that like you can have some funny from one partner, some funny from another partner, and it would the time of the funniness would just be split, or emotional connection with one partner. Or is it a law that you're gonna get funny from one and you're you're gonna get serious stressed out from another?
Yeah, and that's what happened. So this is why over the years when I was younger working with people who were in straight relationships, right? They're married and they have a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. First thing I used to have to tell, they're like, it's so great. They're funny and they're adventurous and all these things. And my husband is not, my wife is not. And I'm going, well, your husband or wife is never going to get to be able to be. And so here's sort of the other thing that dictates what we do is how we spend our time, right? So let's say with that one person who's adventure, we know they're adventurous, so we schedule 2 hours of adventure, and that is all the hours of adventure we're supposed to have for the week. That's the full slice of that. So we spend it with them. Now, let's say you didn't do adventure this week with that person. Yes, there could be an opportunity to see the adventure in a husband or wife. But the problem is we don't realize this law that we only get certain amount of like a money to spend in this place. We've got $10 for a slice of pizza, and if we spend it all, we've got no more money for pizza anywhere else. So this idea of, if you want to see, and this is way more advanced understanding of that law, but you
Sure.
you could manipulate things that way of going, great, I'm going to cut out the adventure with this person this week. I'm going to schedule adventure with this person. Sure, I may have to schedule it. It may have to be my idea, but I want to see what this can be done. But you have to figure out where intuition is important. How long is this $10 supposed to last for? If it's 2 weeks, then you've got to sort of beat that time and go, great, I got to clean it up for 2 weeks, not spend this $10. And then for starting day 15, I can see it with my partner and we can try an adventure and I will get adventure here in my partner. But the idea is most people don't have the intuitive gifts, the way to figure this out and ask these questions. What I do in a session with a person is I'll go, great, what are their potentials for enjoyable adventure in this person? I'll be like, all right, 93. What are the potentials with your husband or wife? 99. So you're losing the better partner for adventure. They've got higher potentials to make it even better. And you're settling for a 93 because of the reflective components of this thing. So same thing with intimacy is I could ask the question, speaks your intimacy language better, and it's usually not the person you think it is. It's because you've allocated it, used up your allotted time, so you can't see it with the other person. And this is how people pass all the time on a soulmate or people who would be the most incredible person for them at this juncture because they don't understand these laws or utilize these laws.
Okay, this is great. So in regards to intimacy and staying on this topic with multiple partners, I'm wondering if people are, and maybe it's just not partners, like it's pretty popular now in the world to go out and sleep with a number of different people. I would like to hear the source perspective on that. Obviously, everything is perfect from the lens of source, and source sees the unconditional love in it. But what effect does that have on our energy to go out and sleep with? There's people out there that might sleep with a couple of different people every week. So what's the effect on someone's energy if they participate in those activities to that degree?
I would say almost 100% of the time, and maybe one exception. And everyone hearing this, they're going to go, I'm the exception. You're probably not. So, this is what I do for a living. I break people's ideas of self all the time, but you'll be better for it. So, um, so this idea of pursuing multiple partners, I had a friend who was the exact opposite of me. To me, one partner was more than enough, too much a lot of times to handle. And if I had to juggle two people at once, keep the story straight and all the other things at the same time, Alessandro would have died. Literally would
Oh
have died.
God.
But I my best friend at the time had would always have like a basketball team of people on rotation every week, and I'm like, why, right? The problem I have with this thing is when you experience the highest quality, the highest levels of something, you don't want anything else. So what that means is I would say 99.9% of the time, all of you guys out there who are going, not me, it is. Especially if you're going, not me, it's definitely you, the way that works. It means it's a reflective imbalance as to why you're in that situation. So it's feeling like in your career nothing is good enough, so it's going to create the dating habit of not finding anybody who's fulfilling enough. Because again, if you struck that lottery situation with that one person and you know they're the best person in the world, you know it's the best sex of your life, you know it's the best connection of your life, when you experience that for the first time, you will automatically cut out everything else the second you have that, knowing there is no better than this, and everything else will be 50% of this. So it is always going to come down to a reflective imbalance of going, I'm not finding the right situations, or my career's not in the right place, or money's not good, or whatever it is.
Interesting. So you're saying if someone is out there sleeping with multiple different people, brand new people that they just meet in a bar, right? Next week they go to another bar. You're saying mostly 100% of the time, except that it is an emotional imbalance.
Yep. And if you're self-love, so if putting yourself first and seeing yourself as amazing, why wouldn't you go, I want the best of the best in the world? You already are not doing that in
Oh,
this scenario.
okay. So what if they're saying I am sleeping with the best of the best in the world through my perspective, as far as maybe physically, maybe their personalities, whatever it may be. Like, what would be your response to that?
If it was, you wouldn't leave it.
Some
So,
some don't leave it. Oh, you're saying like leave the specific person.
so I would say BS.
Well,
Because
they're
again,
saying,
if
well,
that
that's
were
my,
true, right?
but
Say
they're
you get
saying,
your dream car. You get your dream car, the dream car of all dream cars. It's hand built for you. Everything is perfect. It's in your colors. It's got the massagers in the right place that you love it and all that thing.
massagers in a car. Love
You
that.
know, it's got a your own coffee maker in there. You push a button and it gives you your little espresso and things. Are
Right.
you going to let that car go if there was any other car in the world that can't do that?
Well, maybe someone is giving you pushback and going, well, I get that all kinds of cars like that.
Again, and this is where the ego is trying to run the show and
Okay.
say something that isn't true. That is, it's always going to come down to this: that it's you're unhappy with something in your life,
Yeah.
and you feel like you're never happy with things, so it's going to pop up with intimacy.
Okay.
If you don't see yourself as the most incredible in a
Yeah.
way that you don't disclose, but you know it, then you're it's an indicator of settling, is what it is. It's always going to be
Yeah.
an indicator of, I don't deserve this, so I'm not going for this. The ego is going to lie. It's go, no, 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 no. You were made fun of in school and everything else. We got to take advantage of the good looks that were bestowed on us for these 2 years.
Uh-huh.
We don't know how long we have this.
Makes
But
sense.
again, if we were really, really balanced, you would want the best of the best of the world. You would not settle for anything else, and you would not jump until you knew for sure it was that. And then if every time you're jumping, well, then your radar's off
Yeah.
because you should be able to identify that 1 in 7 billion. We should do this, and when you find it, you will never look around for anything else. And if you do, again, that's a reflection too of probably when you're with a partner. So let's say you were with a soul mate, or what everyone's real crazy about these days, soul complement. If you're with your soul complement, which is you and all the complementary male and female energies that you don't have, they're your perfect person. Everything is perfect. There's everything else in the world will not even come close to that. And you're there and you're going, oh, I'm not attracted to my soul complement right now. it's a you problem. It's you're not attracted to your life, so your partner can't appear attractive to you. So it's people don't understand that everything is an imbalance. That they don't look at things as I want it all. I want just enough. I want it all here. Screw all the other areas. And it all comes down to they just don't feel like they deserve at some level better than that. And the ego saying, no, 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 it's not that. That's especially when it is definitely that.
Okay, so what is your greatest, piece of guidance that you have for any of the listeners or anyone that you get to work with on dating, on like going after someone that's complementary of the spirit or soulmate, someone that meets that standard, right? You have a high standard in your life. What would be your ultimate like protocol or tip that you can share with us?
Ooh, it's two. I have two protocols.
Okay,
One,
okay, okay, cool.
if you're young in relationships, which means you have fights, you don't argue well, you don't know how to disarm people, you don't know how reflections work, you don't know how the law of all works and all this stuff, you got to date. And every time you are with a new person or the same person, every week you should be bringing a new concept to the relationship so you can both grow. You can experience a new thing, whether it's with intimacy, conversations, trust. Every week you should go, I've been training like I'm going for the Olympics in my relationships. or
Olympics of dating. That's great.
I've been training to go to war. So
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
right? Never happens. I am ready for battle. So I keep upgrading all this stuff till I get to this place of going, wow, I've thrown everything at this. I can predict how everything is always going to go in a relationship. I'm great at these tools. I very, very rarely am ever out of balance in this. I am ready for my thing. Like, I won't ruin it when it comes. But most people are the opposite, right? They've got one or two skill sets of, like, I can communicate, or you can't. Uh,
You
I'm all
cannot.
in. Sure, you are. I'm ready for my person. And then they come in by the nature of being so complimentary, they're going to be the most triggering person you ever get around in
Yeah,
your life.
that totally
And
makes sense.
and you're going to destroy it.
Yeah.
And it was the one contract that you were not supposed to destroy. You took it before you were ready, and now it's a big problem. So it's a two-part process. Is I would never ever choose to bring in a contracted soulmate or soul complement until I worked out all the bugs and kinks of what I know how to do. So if a fight happens, how do I handle it? Bad intimacy happens, how do I handle it? If a vulnerable moment happens, how do I handle it? If there's a compromising situation, how do we solve it together? If I don't have all of the things that will probably go wrong at some point ready to go, I don't want that best of the best in the world.
That's great. I love when, because I have just thrown a number of clients out into the dating world intuitively. And so it's great when it's like confirmed and you're sort of like saying something like go out into the dating world and you get to prepare and like you get technically a version of your soul complement as you begin to date. And like you say, you get to develop your own protocols and understand reflections through action, right? It's great to like conceptually understand a reflection until you're smacked in the face with one.
And then you
Um,
forget everything. You're like,
oh,
wait, I studied this? What? No.
yeah, yeah,
Out.
exactly. It's like it completely goes out the window. Okay, so that's super fascinating. I want to like I want to actually go back and I want to stick with this subject because it's just like I think a lot of people are interested in it. I think
Hmm.
it's one of those topics that and you've talked about this many times, sort of like creating a business, but maybe even more so, where love is the most reflective thing, ultimately allowing us to grow more than anything in this world. And the topic of intimacy, it just isn't talked about in the way I don't think, at least, in the world that, in a way that can help so many of us grow, learn, and integrate with partners and things of that nature. So, in regards to intimacy, I'm trying to like find how I want to ask this question. Okay, so like I guess some of the worry maybe for certain people is like how that person's energy, if you're intimate with someone, how that person's energy can affect yours. Now, I'm going to say this in like a way that sounds very human, in a way that's a little bit black and white, just so the question's clear. Okay. But it's going to sound a little bit douchey. Let's say you're like, my frequency is high frequency. and this person's got all these imbalances, and then you sleep with them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, how does that, like, is that a problem? I don't even know how to ask the question. Like,
Is that a problem? Uh,
because you're like, both of the people's energy is like getting bigger, and you're like intertwining with their energy. And I just feel like there's a lot of attachments in cords. There we
yes.
go. There's
Yeah.
my question. Cords.
So, yeah, that's exactly right. You're taking on a lot of their stuff. You're taking on their
Yeah.
energies, their hurts, their a lot of times people don't even realize this. Sometimes you're swapping and exchanging soul energy and soul pieces, which
Okay.
is
You're
problematic.
exactly what I'm trying to. I don't have the exact question, but I think you know where I'm attempting to go with this.
So, yeah, and then forget human STDs, like sexually transmitted demons and other things is
Right.
10 times worse than sleeping with a person who has, that's a whole nother thing, but some said to exist disease or something like that. But the ST dark forces are
So it is an STD. Yeah.
it is
STDF.
STDF, yes. That's huge because if you are the brighter energy and they've got like a second realm being on them, it's going to go to the more nourishing light, the higher frequency light, the more abundance of it. And
Uh
now
huh.
in sleeping with them, you open up your energy in the same way that you do when you take drugs. Your protections come down. Your protections come down during sex when you're with a partner who you're supposed to have this open with. So now their thing can jump onto you. Their emotional stuff will become yours, and it opens this whole thing of problems. So again, it's sort of the, and I don't mean this in the way of like where 2025 people are I deserve. They don't know what I deserve means. It's genuinely, it's I would never do this to myself because I love myself enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's all the fake it till you make it. I deserve, like I'm too good for that. And when you measure somebody who says that, their belief for they're too good for that is like an 11 out of 1 to 100. So, but if there's just another person that goes,
Alessandro has clocked me at like 2, 3, 4, 11 with certain areas of life many times. So
Nicky's
um,
like, it stings for a second, but you're better
it does.
after
Yeah.
someday.
Oh, it's so
Probably.
great. Now I'm
At
at this
least I
point.
think I'm going to be better at some point from this.
Yeah. Now I'm at the point when you clock me at like a low level. I just get grateful. I'm like, oh my gosh, because there's so much abundance on the other side,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, when I'm doing a new activity that I hate for a while, because I always hate the new things that my intuition says do, I like to find the low numbers because there's something I can work on really quick and start to get to enjoying the activity much faster, much better, right? So if it was like an intimacy, I had a low number on not applying my intuition to like Mel Gibson, what I think it was What Women Want, where he's like he's a market tester and he's a tester for makeup and women's products, and he gets stuck with that case. So he's about to get fired if he doesn't do write-ups and get the market ready for these products. So he's like smoking a cigarette, like a female cigarette. He's shaving his legs, he's using face moisturizer and blowing his hair at the same time, and ends up like causing getting electrocuted. And then he can hear women's thoughts, which is like what we do with intuition. So maybe I'm doing that intuitively with clients in all these other areas, but I haven't applied that to intimacy. So now I'm going like, what is my ability with intimacy to do this? I'm not going to take offense. I'm going to go, wow, 3%. I'm not doing that. And I have this gift. Let me bring this to this because it's going to bring a whole new level of the wow factor if I can do this. And then if I do it, my partner eventually is going to do it to me, and that's going to be amazing when I have a partner who knows my every need intuitively without having to say it. And that's where intimacy hits these amazing levels. So it's wild, this whole process of looking at and going, right, I want to find my low numbers, because whenever I bring a low number up, it's like I'm experiencing this thing for the first time in a way that I'd never ever
Yeah.
thought was possible.
Okay, so I think there's a lot of people that may have this experience where they begin to have sort of this new level of an awakening. They expand their perspectives and consciousness in new ways. They're becoming well aware of the dark forces world and how that interacts with our day to day lives. And maybe they're in a relationship. Maybe it's a marriage. Maybe it's just a partner they've been with for quite a while. And I'm sure you've had a lot of people that you work with that share this story with you, right? Where it's
My
like,
stories have seen stories.
yes, where they're growing, they're learning how to protect themselves from dark forces, and they're like, look, dude, I'm still trying to get intimate with my partner. What do I do? Because my partner like thinks I'm crazy about dark forces. My partner's got dark forces all over them. What's your recommendation if you're with someone, whether you're meant to be with them or not? You're with them right now, but they're not on board with your spiritual path, your higher
Yep.
self path, your purpose. What's your recommendation?
Never been there. Sorry, got nothing for you. Oh, wait
Sweet.
a minute. That one time in my life. So
Right.
I had that exact relationship happen at one time. I was with a four.
Interesting.
I had a 4 out of 4 I was with. Clearly not ready for the big relationship.
Interesting. Okay.
And they learned a little bit about dark forces. They took to it, and then very, very quickly they got overwhelmed by it, and it was like, I'm out. I just don't believe in this anymore. And I'm like, well, great. Your demons are. We're
Our
not only a
demons.
throuple, we're like sexta. I don't know what it is. It's like, I didn't sign up for this. And then going, I don't want to get that stuff on me, and
Yeah.
knowing
Yeah.
the damage it's going to do to my thoughts, to my career, to the things I was building, and to my confidence, and all the things, and not to mention my health when that stuff gets on you. So I was in this place of the struggle was real. Like, how do you get a person to deal with their stuff? And at that time, we didn't have the technology and dark forces that we teach today. And the technology today is you can get to a level of mastery with your creator field, the forces that are pulled to and pushed from your body with source energy. That before I get to that, there's this fine line of, let's say my partner at that time had two second realm beings on her, and she has a soul contract to have those beings on her. Well, if I was like, well, forget it, I want to be intimate, and I cleared her, now I've screwed up her soul path, soul pull, which is 10 times worse than anything I can do on a human level. Like, if I
Mm.
alter what the soul wants in this lifetime, that is, for me, that is like the line you do not cross. It's something it's always been my contract with souls, with source, and everyone else, that I'm going to enhance the soul path, soul pull, and what the soul wants. I am not going to get in the way of that, and I will find a way to get the human on board with it, but I'm not going to put the soul in a box, in a container, in soul jail for the human sake. So it came up from like, I'm tired of cleaning my partner, or I'm not supposed to clean my partner, but I want to be intimate, and I'm going to get all those things on me. What the heck do I do in that situation? Which led to the current technology we have at Guided Light Healing, which is, what you can do is you can kind of, you can distance, you can put all that stuff sort of away in a neighbor's closet, kind of. You can be around for the intimate moments, and then what happens is that stuff's not going to get on you. there,
Okay.
there, there are some certain specifics of it, but for the majority of it, without emotional contagion and the other contagions and thought fields and things like that, will be a problem. But that stuff will not be able to influence you in with that method. So what we do now is, instead of altering, so let's say you're a kid, you have a parent, or you're an adult kid with a parent, and they've got the stuff on them, they don't believe in it, and their soul's like, we're 2 years away from realizing it's a dark force issue that's creating our health problems and all the problems in our life, so we can't lose these second realm beings or whatever the heck else it is for another 2 years. But the kid is like, I don't want to be in the house with my mom, with my dad, who has the stuff on them. So what you
Yeah.
would do is you learn to distance that stuff in a way that it doesn't affect you. And when you leave, they come walking back in the house.
I see. I see. And so it'll actually like it'll affect when you are intimate with somebody where it's not going to have like an impact on your energy.
Yep, that's
Okay.
exactly right. And then there's other energy, there's other force methods that you can employ to make sure you don't take on their emotional contagions, you don't take on their thought
Okay.
contagions and all the other stuff, and don't take on their soul pieces and give away pieces of your body to them. So it's, I wish there were a learn in 2 days solution. It takes time to be at this level, but the
Hmm.
benefit is you never have to go, hey, it's your responsibility to do this.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that was my big thing, is like, with that partner, that we're only fighting because your demons are making you do this, and they're like, I don't
Yeah.
believe you. And having to have that fight 2-3 times a week, being a 4 out of 4 match. So
So it's funny, we have these challenges like the one that you're experiencing, and then you're able to come up with protocol and solution that's now able to help the rest of humanity and people that are awakening to this, but their counterpart isn't. Or like you said, it could be a parent or a sibling or whoever it may be. That's yeah, that's okay.
yeah,
That's
I've been spiritual growth's big guinea pig all these years.
I've been
So
spiritually growing my entire life. I've been going through a dark night of the soul for my entire life, but epic growing. Okay, I have a
yes.
couple of more questions with this, and then I want to get into some other topics if we have time. I totally want to respect your time, although I know that when we're chatting, it could go on forever. So, so
What?
yeah, I know, right? Okay. Source perspective on self pleasuring. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something? Because from again, so from a more conservative point of view, it kind of seems like it's a little bit unnatural that, like I was saying earlier, that having sex is meant for procreation, and if you're self pleasuring, male or female, that there's an imbalance that is happening. Is that always the case? And I'll let you take the floor.
So that would be one of the things. When it's non-existent, you're gonna have a non-existent sex life. People don't realize that.
Wait, wait,
Or,
wait, wait.
oh
If
yeah, it
you're
gets
not,
even better.
all
It
right, keep
gets
going,
even
keep going,
better.
keep going.
So if it's non-existent, you're gonna have a non-existent sex life, right? You're gonna have a partner, maybe in the beginning, who's great, knows you very well, but as soon as the hormones wear off, phenylethylamine and all the other hormones that drive us in intimacy wear off, you're now going to have a partner who never wants to be intimate, who does not know your body, who is in it for themselves, nothing to do with you because
What?
of this. Yes, there is this law of, if I say if I'm not having intimate release, climactic release in my life, if I'm not putting it in my life, my partner will not put it in my life.
Okay,
It gets even better.
okay, keep going.
Nicky's like, so many things wrong in my head right now.
I
So
know.
basically,
Okay.
when I have worked with so many people, long term marriages, things like that, and they're going, the intimacy is not there. It's always my first question. I always know the answer before it comes up. Well, how many times are you having solo experience, wine and dine, all that stuff?
Solo, hanging out
so
with you.
solo climactic amazingness. How many times? And they're like, I don't.
That's
That's
hilarious.
that's my wife's, that's my husband's job. Or in a relationship, that's my partner's. I wouldn't be in a relationship if I was doing it for myself. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, here you go. There is a law that if you don't take yourself to climactic release, if you're not putting it in your life, your partner will not. And there are all these different reflective versions of it, but that is at the heart of it. So when I have couples who come in who are like, I want intimacy, the first thing is I got to get them to a place of going, I'm getting all the intimacy I could ever want in the best ways I could ever want it. And I'm responsible for it myself, which means solo time in the best ways. And then what happens is they get to this place of going, I don't need my partner anymore. And then what happens? Never, if both partners weren't aware of this conversation, what happens is, because the person put it in their life, now the partner is bringing it to the relationship, and now it comes back in. So people destroy their sex lives by stopping and going, it's on my partner to make me feel good and happy, not me. And that's where it dies out forever. There needs to be this aspect of going, and again, if it's like, I ask a person a question and I intuitively measure, how well do you know your body, right? And I'll get a measurement, tell you what the measurement is in the moment for somebody else, but then I'll go, how well do you think your husband or wife knows your body? I don't know, 25. Great. How funny that you know your body at about 16% and they're giving you a 25%. And then what I do, the big experiment, let's get to know your body at 100%. We can measure all these things and do all these things, right? And then set them on their way. 6 months later, they come back in. How's your partner doing with this whole thing? Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it. I'll tell you right now, I guarantee they've blown your mind with how they've miraculously just figured out your body, what you like, and all these other things. So, in the source perspective of things, if you won't give it to yourself, the world cannot give it to you. That is the law. So, how can you have intimacy if this is the law, if you do not put it within your own life by yourself?
This is so interesting because if we were to go down the sort of like traditional sort of spiritual knowledge, right? Spirituality obviously is like this umbrella. It could mean anything. It can be a religion, but obviously there's this awakening that is happening on the planet of spirituality, just generalizing. And that school of thought is to sort of like let go of masturbation, self-pleasuring the self, because you're releasing like vital energy that can support you in creating a business, creating anything. And so,
Sure. You're right on that,
uh-huh,
but
uh-huh.
this is where in an intimacy course, which we're gonna end up putting together and launching at some point, there is a number of releases in a week that every person has that is going
What?
to, yep, that
A
is going
week?
to amplify your career, your wealth, and everything else. There's,
Stop it.
yep, there is a certain amount that if you're not hitting that quota, your career is suffering not from not having or not from doing, but the opposite. Then you can overdo it too. You can, like the Chinese say, you
Sure.
can deplete too much energy. You know,
It's
if
like
you're,
overactive,
yeah,
right? Like,
if you're doing like, I don't know, 14 a week in a male body, that would be overdoing it. Now you've got no drive or anything for career and things like that. But there is this, too much pressure is not a good thing, and too little pressure is not a good thing. You need
oh
the
my
sweet spot.
gosh. Yeah, because I think there's a lot of people that would like to know themselves on deeper and deeper levels. And they like this idea of discipline. Like I am going to go months and months and months and months without self pleasure. And that's pretty interesting that you're sharing that. So you're saying a week, like you should on a weekly basis.
Oh yeah, like I know what my partner's number of climaxes she needs. I know what mine are, and I try to stay within that because that's where my life is most balanced and creative and amazing. And I'm
That people
not walking around like mean mugging everyone because
are
life is stressful. Like
Okay, so this idea that life is a reflection of our energy, and if we aren't giving ourselves climax, then we're not
mhm.
going to experience that within our relationship. So, I guess the where I'd like to give pushback to get create more clarity is so the way that I've seen life is that it's reflecting our energy. Meaning, if you get yourself to have a climactic experience just with energy, just with being excited about life through passion, hobby, through things of that nature, wouldn't that just take care of it? Like, why do you have to like physically do it and like that specific act? Why
Because
can't
of the
it
ingredients,
are so
you can know
specific?
yourself in an area of life but not know your body's every like and dislike in an
Uh
area,
huh.
right? So there's
Hmm.
sort of this, I would phrase it this way: what is your wish list that you would have towards your partner of
Okay.
wanting to know about you? And it were all these things. It would be like what this muscle does, what this muscle does, how this feels, how this tension feels, and all these things. If you're not putting those in, say, the career piece, sure, there's like build and release, and that's taking part of it. But the other aspects of it, of like how it feels and noticing the subtle parts of your body. So having out of body experiences and not really enjoying it on a physical level in the body is going to take all of that out of intimacy. So being in intimacy, overthinking too much, your body not being there, not being able
Mm.
to be a part of the process in intimacy is going to suck that way because you're doing it that way. So to answer your question, is there a way to do it? Yes, but you would have to know every single ingredient and have to do every single ingredient at the
Okay.
same time in that area in order to effectively do that.
Sure.
I don't know how many people have that much time. It's possible, but it might just be a little bit easier to schedule
Yeah.
some solo Barry White time and and not have to worry about the rest of that stuff.
Okay, I could go on and on and on in regards to this topic, and I think a lot of the listeners are probably excited as well, which is why I think the offering will be, no pun intended, explosive. I will be there.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing, what it teaches people. I mean, the here's the next level things about intimacy is everything is an ingredient. You know, if you're not having, if your partner's not sexually attracted to you and you guys aren't like every day like having to be pried off of each other
Uh-huh.
in a healthy way, it means you're lacking that stuff in your life. So again, you might never know that stuff without a partner. So if it's like, again, the attraction thing, if I'm not attracted to my life, I'm not going to be attracted to my partner. If I'm not impassioned to do something and have something that I'm impassioned by in my life, my partner is not going to be impassionately drawn to me. So it's sort of the whole Prince factor that I talk about, the artist formerly known as Prince, how he was what, 5'2", maybe, and could walk in the room, not really attractive by standards of what's attractive for a lot of people, but everybody was attracted to him because he had that level of passionate draw to his own life. So people were passionately drawn to him and go, I would have his babies. Like it was that because he had that draw. So again, what you said earlier is right on. If you don't give it to yourself, if you don't place it in your life and know where it is, you won't have it from your partner in an intimacy. So all of the issues that you're having in the relationship got nothing to do with your partner. It's all about the things that you're refusing to place in your life.
Fascinating, fascinating, fascinating. Some people are going to roll their eyes at this question. Some people are going to be like, Nikki, that's a great question. Okay. These are just some
we're,
of the
we're,
things.
we're going for the half glass full, people.
Yeah, exactly. So, from this point of view that I've presented some of these questions, like the point of having intimacy could be seen through like just for procreation. And so my question is, from the perspective of source, what is the point of a female orgasm? Like I've heard that maybe even scientists can't figure out like how that happened and why it happens. Like what is the reason for it? And a lot of people listening are like, well, Nikki, obviously, reflections and what Alessandro just described, everything you just said in the past hour.
um, it it cycles the energy in the body. It brings about a level of balance that you can't achieve without it. It's sort of feeling like, you know,
Scientists, are you listening?
it's like too much pressure in certain places, which causes dams in the body. Kind of the same reason you go for acupuncture or a chiropractor to get the flow of things going in the body. Stopping the flow of energy is consequential. It can be like a pressure cooker that explodes because too much pressure has developed. It brings newness. It brings new energy. It brings new a refreshing of things in the body. So it's the yin and yang. If you don't have both going on, people notice in relationships. This is where the token phrase, you need to get laid, you're awful to be around right now, that's where that comes from. That is sort of the emotional yin and yang of not taking care of your body's needs, not experiencing all it has to do, just like in Buddhist and other religions, where you see a lot of the teachers is emaciated, skin and bone. It's because, their belief is the body is a problem or this thing that you're supposed to rise above. But what we know with the science technology, that source science technology, is that if your body's frequency is low, your soul frequency, spirit frequency can never be high vibration because your body is such a big part of the vibrancy of your energetic self.
Yeah,
So you
that
can't
makes
separate the two.
that makes so much sense. And like you were talking about, stress is good, but too much, it can have a negative impact on you achieving your goals. And
Yep.
science share like
So
that's
it's
that's
like
totally.
being more and more wound. And what also will happen is you'll get sick easier. Your
Mm,
chemical imbalances in your body will happen. Like all of these things, your immune system's going to take a hit. Like people don't realize it's going to strengthen their immune system, and not just
yeah,
on a chemical level, but again, being more balanced and the harmonies. So the when your body's in harmony, your life will be in harmony. When your body's out of harmony, that's the first communication, you're out of harmony, and then your career becomes out of harmony, and then relationships and
Mm.
family and all these other things. So it's to cycle. It's to kind of refertilize the soil, have something new to grow from. It's sort of like when a forest fire happens, that soil is never going to be so rich as after the fire. There's all these
Mm.
minerals and things
Yeah.
in there, and then what grows up from under that is so much more. So it's sort of that turnover process, just like women's bodies and having the cycles, same thing. It's there's four different emotional states that go through with that cycle, and then the renewing, and the climax brings a renewing of the body and things like that. And that's also indicative, can you let go enough to enjoy life? And if you can't, you won't be having climax. So all of this stuff is,
Wow. Wow,
yes.
what a fascinating topic. And that this all leads us back to intuition, because like you said, like there's a number that can be tailored to you as to when you should be having these experiences and things of that nature. Now, through the typical spiritual, from the typical the more traditional spiritual perspective, celibacy has been known to be positive. What is the source perspective on celibacy? Is it unique to a person? Is it something that there's a season in life where it can be extremely beneficial? I know, not to go TMI, but I've had, seasons in my life that um, could be known as a drought
Dry
celibacy.
spells.
Yeah, yeah, where I'm wandering out in the desert, and then the desert becomes your home. But I've also, there's been, a certain level of intention of like, this is beneficial. At least I like to call it a spiritual ego is like, look at me. I am celibate. I am better than you, whoever. So what's the source perspective on celibacy, the positive aspects of it, the cons and all of that?
It's important at all times, but anything, if you do it too much, it becomes a negative thing. The idea, what I would say about celibacy is this: it is a time to get to a place of going, I'm not missing anything because I give it all to myself. People do celibacy wrong because they go, well, I'm not getting intimacy right now. I'm not getting this. I don't have anyone to kind of cuddle up with at nighttime and
Yeah.
watch Netflix it and all the things.
Yeah.
So people do celibacy wrong. If you do
Mm,
celibacy the right way, you're probably going to end up in a relationship within a week or two anyway, or have people beating down your door when you're doing it right.
mm.
Same way, when you first get into a relationship, you suddenly become very attracted to the rest of the world and everyone wants to date you. And you're like, where
Yeah.
the hell were you before I was in the relationship? You
Yeah.
idiot.
Yeah.
And no personal experience with that. But when that's the idea of celibacy, is if you're doing it right, you're going to be very, very attractive to everyone around you, men and women. They're all going to take note of it. But what most people do is they get into celibacy and they're like, time to fast. That's not what it is. Celibacy
Mm,
is the art of fulfilling your every need and taking care of yourself fully, as if you have the same needs as if you be in a relationship. If
right.
you're in if you're in celibacy and you're living at 20% of everything, here's the sad part: when you get into the relationship, you're going to only have 20% of the things you want in that relationship. And your ego
Sure.
may
Yeah.
lie and say you're getting it all, but it'll all come out in the wash. Once the chemicals in the body come down after about 6 months, you'll go, I feel like I have nothing here. And that is very
Oh.
true.
Gosh, it's so funny. Like I feel like humans have this. I don't know if it's innate, but like we see things through this black and white lens. This is good and this is bad. If I'm on the spiritual path and I'm celibate, I am good. I am a better spiritual person. And it's just interesting because from the perspective of source, everything truly is perfect, and balance is how you experience that perfection and realize that perfection, and to know that it all comes back to really living intuitively and living, guided by that higher self, that there are certain needs that need to be met that you might have deemed as bad. Like whatever that maybe there is a season of your life that is pulling you to be a little bit more celibate, and you're engaging in one way, whatever it may be. And intuition, I feel like, is the solution to all of this.
Well, it's the only way you're ever going to know, am I actually missing something or do I actually have it all? All the time, if I did not have intuition, I would be I would be lost. Meaning, like, my ego is going to tell me I have it, And then my reflections are going to tell me I don't, but I'm not going to be able to make heads or tails of it because my ego doesn't want to be fired because it's supposed to be making sure I get this stuff, but I don't have it. Is my reflections are telling me by everything going, you don't have this, Alessandro. Now there's this huge thing happening. And it's also a slow process where I can, in a moment, I can go look, I can scan my creator field and I go, great, these are the things I'm out of balance on. My body right now is making it easier with my 16 different injuries happening in the body all at the same time because of the amazing jujitsu in my life. I it's telling me the story of where I'm imbalanced right now, and my body's talking a lot on this stuff. So without intuition, though, it's a slow process. But with intuition, I can beat my injuries. I can beat the unfortunate things that happen in my life by figuring out what the problem is. So the universe, my creator field, higher self doesn't have to tell me that there was a problem because I already know there's a problem and I've already fixed it. So the universe is going, great, this is where we change the future. You don't have to experience this anymore because you knew it was an issue. I just had this so we've been teaching new levels of reflections that blow people's minds. But I talk about this law of preview, which is a form of reflection. It's when you see something, you're going, glad that's not me. And you kind of just walk on by. Clock's been started. You've got a week or two, maybe 3 before that same exact thing happens to you in some form, some way. So what I do is at this point in my life, knowing what I know, I pay attention to the things that people say that are outside the ordinary. So I think it was I took my daughter shopping, going for clothes, and she's 14 and a half. So it's
Stop.
fun
When,
age.
when I first met your daughter, I mean, she was just a little kid and now
Yeah,
she's a
yeah,
teenager. That's wild.
yeah, like building toy force fields around everyone in class and stuff. Yeah, it
Oh,
was great.
that is, oh my gosh.
So 14 and a half, and we're out shopping, and you know, it was just me and her and doing some of that bonding stuff. And I remember I had this one point where I was like, I had to break off. I had to go use the restroom. And I had this moment of going, I don't know if I should give her the shopping bags. And then I paid attention right away. I was like, well, what bag could happen with the shopping bags? And it wasn't she's going to lose them or forget them. It was something may find its way in there that shouldn't find its way in there. Right. And my daughter never, ever been this type. And but I had the idea, and I was like, you want to take one of the bags? And let her take one of them, took the other bag with me, and I was like, all right, let it go, log preview. And then I think kind of blew by it. We'll say I even missed it. And then I was in an event, and then somebody goes, I just caught my daughter stealing lipstick. And I think it was lipstick, some sort of makeup, something like that. And then in the middle of this big event, I was like, you know what? So there's this thing, law of previews. This is for Alessandro right here. He is worried that his daughter is going to become a convict. And if he doesn't fix this right now, so Alessandro is taking a mental note that you are helping me with this law of preview, and I got to correct this thing. So, second time, right? Had I not picked up on this, I would have been in a situation where now my daughter would have done it. So I to put the law to the test, I sat down with intuition. I was like, what's going on here? I was like, would she be stealing because she doesn't have the means? No. Would she be? And then it hit me. I was like, oh, embarrassing, right? It's going to be super embarrassing for her. So she wouldn't want somebody to know she has to buy something, and that's where it would happen, right? So I pulled out this whole thing. I was like, wow, this is really happening. And then the human intuitive healer in me was like, all right, that's it. We're going out today. We're going to buy the 5 most embarrassing things. We're going to like video camera it. We're going to pay for these things. And then not only to make it worse, we're going to go back and return these things. So we're going to make an extra spectacle of getting used to buying embarrassing things. And I was like, yeah, we're not going to do that. She's probably going to have next level traumas from all this stuff. How about Alessandro just fixes the reflection of feeling like it's embarrassing? So this has got to be taken without anyone knowing. Let me find that financially in my life, whatever's going on here, correct that, and then killed the preview that was happening. So couldn't have done it without intuition.
Okay, this is interesting, and this is a great segue into reflections, which is like this idea that all of life is reflecting our energy. And so, was she reflecting some aspect of your energy? Is that sort of what you're getting at a little bit now?
Yep. So what would have had to have happened? I can't remember the exact story of what it was. It was probably in financial, feeling like maybe I was embarrassed to do something I had to do financially that I knew was going to be a good thing, something like that.
I see. So, a
Yeah.
lot of people that are aware of reflections, they would think that it had to do with stealing, like you're stealing some aspect of your own time. You're stealing, like yeah, people, someone that's might
Hmm.
be like well versed in this category of growing, which is reflections. You're saying with intuition, you're able to sort of like zoom in on that reflection and go, oh, it wasn't stealing, it was embarrassed,
Yep.
or do they go together? Is it like you're stealing
It
something
was
because
like feeling like I had to do something uh, that was questionable to me to accomplish a goal financially, something like that. Like, not questionable to the world, but questionable to me of like, I made this promise to myself and I have to break this promise, but I have to break the promise without me really knowing it. So it's sort of like one of those type scenarios. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then sure enough, when I started to code it, the very, very specific thing popped up on which I was doing it. And then immediately I was like, wow, if this isn't on the nose of what was going on, this happened yesterday. I didn't even catch it because it's a split second thought. I didn't catch it. And then this was to bring it back up because I ended up in that sort of deficit, and then it stayed with me, and it will stay with you because there's no correction. I need to look at it and correct it and go, nope, that's not how we're what's really happening here. I'm actually doing it. It's an intuitive choice, blah blah blah. Straightened it out in my head, killed the whole thing. So now at least my daughter's gonna steal. Alessandro's not gonna hear about it. But anyway.
if it happens. I remember the first time I shoplifted when I was like probably her age. I was in
Yeah,
Hawaii.
right?
Yeah, I was in Hawaii with my
Right?
family, and I just like put a hat. There was like a store.
Yep.
One dude was in it. I put the hat. I went in the dressing room, put the hat in there, and I'm like in there sweating. And I come out, and he's like, "Can I see your backpack?" I'm like, "Yeah." He opens the backpack, saw that I stole a hat. I never stole after that. I was probably her age, and that definitely happens. I mean, at
But
least in my
it would have
experiences,
had to do with your parents or the guy in the store, like somebody's reflection that went on too long. So you had to act it out. You had a part
feeling
in it.
is it feeling like we didn't have the means, maybe?
Yeah. Feeling like you're taking things from yourself for life that you
Yeah,
shouldn't be
yeah,
taking, and then he's learning and growing in that moment. You're learning
yeah.
and growing in that moment.
It was
It's
a great lesson. I didn't do it since. I haven't done it since, which is great. So okay. So law previews is that when you begin to see, certain like someone experience some level of adversity, then you're in alignment for it. Whether it's tomorrow, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I remember when I was aware of this law and I was driving to San Diego from Northern California, and I saw this guy like fixing his car tire on the side of the road, and I was like, shit.
yeah.
And then I literally, it was like, I'm in alignment for that. And the minute
Everyone's
I
like,
got
Nicky, are
to,
you that full of yourself? It all has to do with you. Actually, it does.
yeah, yeah. And then I got to San Diego and I'm like, my tires are fine. And then 2 days later, I see a nail in my tire and I'm like, that's there, there's where it was. I was actually kind of confused because it was just like an intuitive, I kind of jolted and saw like he was specifically working on a tire. And I think I saw like a couple of other ones and I was like, I'm totally like, okay. And I didn't get to I didn't shift it.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
got
That's
got a little bit
exactly how it
lazy.
happens. We're constantly teaching at guided light healing like more and more ways to get ahead of reflections, because if you ignore something, it's going to show up in your body. But then these law of previews that are happening all around the world, if you see something and you don't adjust to it, then it's going to happen. And the same
Yeah.
thing's happening with other countries. We're seeing countries go without power, like losing their power grid for a week, 2 weeks, because they're doing something that can never support their power grid. And then the rest of the world's watching it and go, ha ha ha, it sucks for them, but we're
That could never
fine.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're not adjusting our system to make sure it never happens, so we're going to be in that boat. And so this law of previews thing is reflections. It's amazing, but it can get you so far ahead of these things without it having to show up in your body that way, which is awesome because reflections are fun when they're in. your body.
Yeah. So, okay, what about this idea? Let's say that you're beginning to see quite a bit of, people make millions of dollars, or you're starting to see quite a bit of people having success, or you're seeing someone, they just get into, I don't know, a romantic relationship, and it at least appears to be like a soulmate or complementary, and you're seeing all these good things around you. Does the law of previews work the opposite direction in a positive way?
Uh, if you were really genuine about it, and this where you can't know without intuition, and you're going, "This is great. All these people are coming into money," and then
Mm-hmm.
what we don't realize, the ego is like, it's them and not us. Why not
Mm-hmm.
us? So it's
Yeah.
actually a negative reflection in those instances. But if in those instances you were going, this is awesome. Everyone around in my life is doing better, and these are signs for me, and you were 100% behind it, yes, it would be a thing. So I tend to explain to people when we teach in our financial programs what's going to change in your life. The first thing that typically happens is you go from your broke, starving artist friends in whatever walk of life that is, to your friends will change over, or your friends become successful. And it's usually a preview for you, unless you're in this reflective place of going, why does everything happen for everyone else except for me? So,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Okay. I want to actually, again, I want to speak to the skeptic for a second. Can you, and again, we're speaking on reflections, but how would you describe reflections? Like you said, this is going to help the seasoned intuitive or the person that's been in this world. How would you describe reflections? And that'll lead me to my follow up questions, just because I want to lay a foundation for the next questions.
reflections, simply put, are an assessment of self. When we're little, we see ourselves as we're going to be an astronaut, we're going to see ourselves as president or something like that. So let's say president. 5 years old, what do you want to be? I want to be the president. I really, really want to do this. And then 6 year old, 7 years old in school, we're not doing very well with history. And we got a B. And somebody says, well, you need to know history to be president. And you're like, all right, well, maybe I'm not going to be president of the United States, but I'm going to be president of one of the world's most successful companies who does this in the world. Okay. So we've gone from president of the United States having a little hitch happen, and then we adjust how we see ourselves. That adjustment is a problem because if our soul path, soul pull was to become president, now we've altered our soul path, soul pull by this insecurity. Now we're going, well, instead of president of the United States, I'm going to be president of this company. And now the lives that was supposed to change my contracts are being voided because I'm seeing myself in a less than way. Now, for let's say you don't even buy into the spiritual world, doesn't matter. What we teach God lay healing is all science backed anyway. They've estimated the subconscious brain to be tens of thousands of times more capable than the conscious brain. It is capable of all these things. Well, the subconscious brain knows that you have now changed and see yourself a little bit less. Your subconscious brain is going to start to communicate through sickness and disease in your body. It's going to try to scream, hey, you've lowered your potentials. You've lowered how you see yourself. That's not okay. I'm not on board with this. I am standing up against this, and it's going to show through sickness and disease. I might get a sore throat. I might get middle back pain, things like that, that are supposed to be translated in that I've lowered how I've seen myself in the world, and I'm not following my soul path, soul pull anymore because I'm not capable of it. And even the tiniest amount does this. So it starts to show up in the body. But now what happens is the brilliant genius subconscious brain, intuitive self, higher self, all these things, and our creator fields start to orchestrate things around us that become the villains, and we are the victim. And the job of the villains is to turn us into a hero. So what happens in this scenario is going, I am not, I'm not good enough to be president. Now what happens is my subconscious gets into my creator field, alters the forces, and now it sends out this script, like we talked in intuition, that people are going to pick up and read and play that role. I'm auditioning for a role of a villain. If I get a villain who goes, you're not good enough, you're an idiot if you think you're ever going to be president, or things like that, law of opposing forces, someday, maybe take 15, 20 years, sometimes what you see with parents, but someday I'm going to go, screw you. I am going to do it. And now I've gotten back on my side and now I've raised back up. So reflections are to create an acting scene where there is an actor, where there is a villain who is going to take your disempowered self, your needing to be empowered self, and they're going to coach you into this through obstacle, and then you're going to take your side, and now you're back on course for the soul path, soul pull. So the subconscious brain, it has control over your body, it has control of your heart rate, breathing, chemicals, hormones, how you feel from situation to situation, and it can orchestrate and utilize all of this to put you in situations that are going to play out this. You've underestimated yourself. We are going to use all of our abilities to create a villain. Not hard to do. We can send off emotional energies that put them in the bad space. We can set off things that make them insecure and want to become secure over us. The subconscious brain and all the other parts can do this. And now you're in these reflective situations. So it is just science on how this
Mm.
stuff is happening, but this is why it happens.
Okay, this is that's a beautiful foundation for this follow up question, right? So this idea that life is reflecting our energy and our imbalances, and when we're imbalanced, it'll show up in regards to either a villain or maybe someone will show up as a hero or whatever it may be, right? Like they're going to act out this script that is written into our field of energy. And, there's an aspect of me that appreciates the skeptic's mind because I think it allows us to create even more clarity. And the question would be, okay, with all these unspeakable tragedies that are happening all around the world, how could we say that that is a reflection? How could we say that, with in regards to, starvation and sex slavery and in these topics that are harsh, that I almost even hesitate to say out loud, but that I think it's worth saying. How could one go, well, how are we going to say that's radical, like take radical responsibility with these unspeakable tragedies happening all around the world?
Well, it's the same as it's collective consciousness is what it is, people in a household will generally have the belief that drugs are bad or that you have to work hard in life. Like your friends are chosen the same way. They kind of will congregate. They will be drawn to you based on your beliefs and they have similar beliefs. So people with similar beliefs probably have similar issues, right? People who don't believe in drugs will probably have issues with control in their life, right? Because they want full control over their life and they don't like drugs because it makes them feel out of control. So probably everyone in that family is going to struggle with control. Now, that family together, maybe in a car where the steering wheel goes out and they all feel like they have no control because in that situation, control, the steering wheel going out being the villain, everyone in the car is now going to be corrected at the same time because of the collective consciousness of that family. They all need the same lesson, so they're going to participate in the same lesson. Now, there were all these other people on the road that day who were having uh, control reflections, and they get to witness all this as a preview. So not only the people involved get to directly interact with it to the level of change they need to incur, but then there's all the maybe 25 people who saw the whole thing happen and actually read about it in the paper and found out it was a recall and all these things, and it's changing their lives as well. So what it is because of emotional contagions, collective consciousness, collective ideas. It's sort of when you get an idea, another person in another place, different city will get the same idea and you'll go this way. We're all connected by this. And when there's a lot of us together, that is going to be a lot of energy, a lot of brilliant, genius subconscious selves that are going to orchestrate a similar situation in mass that is going to teach all these people. So again, there has to be the villain. These are the people who are the victims, and then the villain will create the victim becoming the hero, and now it's the world is forever changed. So you're getting reflections from the outside, not experiencing it but learning it and having feelings about it and living your life a different way based on what you saw. Same thing, Holocaust, right? People saw that. If you weren't involved in it, the people around it were going, had a reflection of people taking, of not having control over their life. So the ones who really felt that way were witnessing it at certain levels in this. And then after it happened, person was like, I'm never going to allow this to happen again. And so it also changed the world. So we're all kind of in a group mind bound together, a group emotional imbalance bound together. And depending on what story it is, the world is really, really effective at changing hundreds of millions of people's lives all at once. Look at
Mm.
what happened with this whole COVID thing, with the pandemic. Everyone in the world was forever changed by this. There were some people who weren't listening to their intuitive voices and paid the highest penalty for that. They shortened their lives, they shortened their immune systems by not listening to what they knew on the inside was what they shouldn't do. And then they listened to somebody else, and now they ended up with these issues. So reflections are amazing, but how they work is it's sort of like we can all read our emotions, read our own thoughts. We all get together. That amplifies it, which creates the bigger situation. And this is why we end up at war. We end up all these things because it's a collective body of people with this massive processing power, the
Mm.
subconscious brain that can orchestrate any situation. And
And
that's not including all the other forces that have been proven to exist on our bodies.
and so there's, you would say, like, these people that live in certain areas of the world that are experiencing these levels of tragedy, whether it be war,
It's a
whatever it
soul
may be.
contract for them to be there and to grow up in that life. Infinitely, yes.
How do you how do you explain that? Like, like, do you get to a point where you're kind of like, okay, if like, you get to a point where it's like, if someone isn't subscribing to that idea, where do you go with that? Like, do you
Proof.
take it a step further
Well,
that
yeah.
it's a so
So
called
I
contract?
will
What's
start to line up the pieces in their life, how everything's been pointing to this, and I'll have them see the pattern in their own life till they go to a place. And I'll always ask this question, take somebody you grew up with, equally matched to you. Why is it they can have a certain life, equally skilled, equally everything? Why did they get this
right?
life and you don't?
Yeah,
And I start to show people that they do have a sign written on their forehead on how the world's supposed to teach them. And then how do I show them that that's true? Have them change a couple things. And when their whole life changes, they go, oh my God, I did have a sign on my forehead,
mm,
didn't I? And I was like, yes, you
yeah.
did. So I I just show them with proof. I have them make a change or two, and when everything changes, then I have them undo it. Everything goes back, and they're like, "Wow, this really is all my stuff."
They see
And
the firsthand transformation.
yep, and I've had people change 30 years of bad family dynamic and turning a mother and father into their favorite person on the planet, who
Yeah,
they were the biggest
yeah,
villain. I've I've
yeah,
I've
yeah.
done all this stuff. I mean, when was it TDS? When TDS is still a big thing, but less today. Trump derangement syndrome, got people to over that stuff, finding the patterns in their life of why they're seeing this person as a villain, showing them where it's in their life, correcting that, and then going, I don't know what I hated about him. He's actually pretty great. And I'm like, oh, really? That's how it works, huh?
All right, so let's say that someone has like a legitimate criticism in regards to someone like Trump, who can be a reflective character in the world, and the criticism is legit. It's legit criticism, meaning it's rooted in truth. There's some aspect of whatever he's doing that is, and maybe he's not doing it intentionally.
Sure.
Or is that still a reflection?
Yes. Because again, if I have an opinion about it, that it is heavier weighted in good or heavier weighted in bad, still going to be a reflection. If I'm going, oh, fact, da 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 da, and that's it, and I don't even think
Okay,
about it again, it's got no emotional thing. If I'm looking at it like it's great for this, it's negative for this is going to change here in the world because of this is not going to change in the world because of this,
yeah,
it is my favorite worst saying, it is what it is. It's sort of this, like, I have no desire to influence it
yeah.
any other way. That is the closest you will be to not being in a reflection.
Okay, so if it elicits an emotion, whether you're right or wrong, it's reflecting an aspect of your own energy.
Yeah, an imbalanced perception, meaning like I'm favoring this as more positive or I'm favoring this as more negative. What we're supposed to do is see everything in, we've talked about this maybe once before, that
Hmm.
everything is supposed to be seen with unconditional love, like how Source would look at us in absent of what a lot of the religions will say, non-judgmental, you can do no wrong in my eyes, like a mother could look at a child, maybe not always does, but could. That's the idea that we bring to this is going, I just stubbed my toe, but this is amazing because it's going to be bring me back closer into my body. I'm going to start to pay attention to more how quickly I'm walking and not be clumsy. It's probably going to prevent me from breaking a bone or tripping and falling or something like that. And at the same time, the pain, but also it feels I'm present in my body. I wasn't paying attention. I'm going to slow down. So it's sort of like, would I have chosen not to stub my toe? No. Would I have chosen to stub my toe? I mean, it seems like it was worth it. So seeing the bad is worth it is a form of real balance.
And then, okay, so then where, okay,
So the
what,
bad is necessary is what I'm trying to say.
sure, right. That what we perceive as negative is essential in a lot of ways, essential in our growing.
Like, would
And
you do it again? Yes, I would do it again based on what I got from it.
okay, so here's my question in regards to reflections. Where is the balance between honoring the human self? Let's say you have a person in your life, and they're meant to teach you all these lessons. Between going, you know what, I have this person in my life. There's sort of like this toxic energy between both of us, whether it's verbally out in the open or it's just an energy. A lot of intuitives will like feel like negative around someone, but the interaction's always sweet. They're like, fuck, I can just feel this person. It's like resentment towards me or whatever it may be. So where's the balance between going, okay, I'm going to take radical responsibility for this. I'm going to shift this versus going, you know what? I am just going to distance myself from this person. I'm not going to be around them, or I'm going to say something. I'm going to get confrontational. I'm going to bring it up and say, hey, I don't like the way that you're being passive aggressive. I don't like the way that you're talking to me. Where's the balance between radical responsibility and taking sort of just a human approach on the matter?
You got a few options in that scenario, and this is how I would figure out where I lie.
Okay.
Run from it, and if it pops up again somewhere else, it's all you. Spoiler, it's all you anyway. But you can run from it, and it will follow you.
Are you are
So
you are you saying that like just put it to the test, or you're actually saying like run from
yeah,
it and
yeah,
actually
put it to the test, and then understand it's probably going to pop up in a different area. It might be pop. It was a friend situation here, but now it's a financial situation that's doing the same thing. The
mm,
friend was like, you're not worth the effort, and then financially, there's not enough money because the money's not there because you're not worth the effort. You'll see it that way. Sometimes you'll get really lucky and see it in the next relationship. So this is
okay.
where people in abusive relationships will go, screw that, I'm leaving this relationship. They don't fix the reflections, and then lo and behold, their next relationship, which seemed amazing for a few months, is now an abusive relationship times a higher percentage more. So it's increased. Every single time it will increase to let you know, hey, not only is it the same, but it's getting worse because you're saying it's got nothing to do with you. So what I do is it's two-part process, and this is one of the things we teach is I break the cycle first. I fix what the imbalance is, and then I take the action so that I get full credit for the action. So I'll give you a different analogy. Let's say I am working on materializing money. I'm a spiritual being. I know about frequency, alignment. I know about ingredients. I'm going to do all this stuff from the comfort of my home. I'm going to do all this stuff, and then I'm not going to do anything because I know I can make the universe do it. So I'm not going to do anything. It's going to be really hard for the universe to find me through my Amazon delivery guy. I mean, especially if I'm supposed to meet, my partner who's going to introduce me to this person, all this other person. If I refuse to leave my home, I don't get any credit for that great work, but I'm not following it up with the right actions to get that. Now, let's put that aside for a second. Let's say we're in the other example where I don't believe in the spiritual, and it's not about that, and I'm doing all the things, all the right things to make my career happen. I'm going out every day and introducing to people, and I'm pitching my ideas and all this, and it is dry out for 5 years. I can't get arrested. I can't get people to notice what I'm doing. It's because I'm lacking the frequency, vibration, the ooh, you're oozing success and wealth. right? Which would be the ingredients on the spiritual side. So now let's say we combine both and I do all the work, I tune the ingredients, I work on the reflections of this. I go out and the first person I meet who had the opportunity to be an investor, whatever it is, because I had this, for every time I do it, I get credit for it. It actually works. Most people, they're on one side or the other. And what I do is on the reflective side. So it's basically going, what reflections are going to make this go badly? I don't think I'm special. So when I go out to promote my business, they're not going to think what I'm doing is special. Great. Let me fix this. So now what I'm going to do is I know my rejection is coming from I don't feel special. Let me get to a place of knowing I'm special. Not an easy task, but doable. And I do it. Now I go back into the same situation by that person who turned me down a year ago and I talked to them again. They're like, "Oh my God, you're amazing. We should do this." I'm like, "You don't remember meeting a year ago?" "No, absolutely not. This and
Right.
this and this." "No, I don't remember that." Anyway, whatever. Let's go ahead. Let's move along with this plan. So it's same concept that I take over here is I don't go, is or isn't this a reflection? I go, this is absolutely 100% a reflection. And I fix it. And then I get into the situation and follow it up with the actions that are going to bring me the desired result that I
Right.
want.
Like the intuitive action. Like what now I can make more of an objective, intuitive
Mm-hmm.
like
Because
decision in my
maybe
life.
it's they're always rude. Now I've fixed the reflection, not beating up myself, and now my intuitive reaction is to go call them out on their BS. Hey, did you realize how rude that sounds when it comes across this way? It
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you don't like me and you're taking a dig. And why are you even
Yeah.
friends with me? And then we go, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I was doing that. I always see
S
you after work, and I'm in such a bad mood.
yeah.
I didn't even realize I was doing. And boom, now it's solved.
So you okay? So you recommend like look at the imbalance, shift it, and then actually confrontation
Take an action.
can be positive. So for my own life and my own experience, the reflection that I've experienced quite a bit, it has to do with like just it feeling like I'm interacting with someone and they don't like me. So in whatever you feel comfortable sharing or giving, like what would I do about that? Like is that completely is that
My
because I'm
first
in
question is why don't they like you?
I don't know how to answer that, but my question is that intuitive of me or is that like an imbalance or both?
It's probably not intuitive of you. 99% of the time, it's not. So, one of the things we do
Mm,
is like super pro move. But I have this question of that I'm going to look in. Okay, I know I'm in this situation here, but I want to know, is this the actual situation happening? Do they actually not like you, Nikki? And in that situation, I'm looking and it's like a no. There is no dislike for you in that situation. So the first thing I want to know, which is with intuition, is what I think that is the problem. Is it actually a problem? The answer is no. So what's happening is you're in this situation where their body language and everything seems like they don't like you, but it may
mm,
be they've just had a hard conversation with somebody. Maybe they're
mm.
worried about losing their job or something else.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just cold, distant, pulled back, and you're pulling in a lot of these people because you're in this place of going, there are some unlikable pieces of me. So I want to use an assessment, intuitive assessment, even better, and going, is there any dislike for me? And if I can't measure 1 to 100 anything more than like a 6, I already go, well, I'm freaking wrong about this and it's not dislike. So now I'm going, it's not a problem. So let me solve this thing so that I don't keep on bumping into people who give the
Mm.
perception they don't like me.
Perception. Yeah.
So now I'm going to do is people don't like me. So now I'm going to ask this question, which in each of the areas of my life are responsible for me feeling in a similar way of myself. Like I don't want to be around myself. I don't want to associate with myself in
Okay.
what area. And the most popular area of 2025 and later 2024 is financial. So in
Okay.
financial,
That totally makes sense.
feeling
Yeah, yeah.
like you don't want to be around yourself, like who you are financially, and feeling like it's somebody you want to get to know and be
Sure.
with and not disown. having those ideas of going, and it's not where you are financially, it's just your goals not matching where you
Totally.
are right now. You can
Totally.
be extremely successful, but if your goals are level 10 bigger, you're still going to go, I don't want to be around myself right now. I don't want to give
Yeah.
myself the time of day
Yeah. Yeah.
financially. When you correct that, what's going to happen is now you, because there is no issue of people actually not liking you, it's just the perception, it comes across, it's acted out that they don't like you. Now when you clear this out, now you get to see a different level from people on that.
That's man, I love that. I love that so much, and I think the listener appreciates that as well because as intuitive beings, we're so sensitive, and so this idea of picking up on someone's energy, it's not that it's technically wrong; it's just off. Meaning, it's like you're feeling a certain level of toxicity, and like you said, it might be from their own shit, from something that happened, and then it goes through the lens of the ego or through the filter of the ego, and then it projects this image in our mind of they don't like me.
Yeah, or
You know?
it's
Yeah.
mine. Like
Yeah, it's
every
my own shit.
yeah, like everything is it's about me,
Yeah.
it's about me. It's like, you
God.
know, your partner can't come home having had a bad day. You'll never be okay with it not being you ever. It's always like
Yeah.
it's
It
like
has to do with me.
yeah, yeah. Every time, like
It's all
our
about
brain
me.
wants to own it all and go, no, no, there's no world where you had a bad day that I didn't cause. No way. And in reality, it's they don't have an issue with you. You're turning it into an issue. Now they have an issue with you because you're adding a pile of extra junk on their day and blaming them for something that they're
Yeah.
not actually doing. So that helps really well.
I've like never done that even
Ever.
once.
Not
Yeah, I mean,
once.
I've also like received like quite a bit of affirmation from one of my parents growing up, and so that's also created like if someone's not just like, "Hey, how are you? Oh my gosh, that was the most incredible thing." I'm like, "What's wrong? What did I do wrong? What you don't like me? What's going on?" Like, because like yeah, one of my parents, dad, I love my dad, so I can say him. So okay, so in regards to reflections, and I we when we were all in Malibu with me and Ali, you may not remember this specific moment where you were bringing up sort of this idea where you walk in a room, and I'd like to elaborate on it, and I think it has to do a little bit with reflections. You walk in a room, I just think it's wildly valuable. I love my ADD brain. You walk in a room, and when you're interacting with someone, you start to immediately find what you like about a person. How is that helpful? How, because I'm using it in context. Let's say you're having an interaction with someone and it's just not great. Is that shiftable from that protocol that you talked about, which is finding what you like about a person?
Yeah, because that situation,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to become what you're focused on. So, Craigslist. Okay.
So random.
Craigslist.
Craigslist.
Everyone's like, it's full of crooks and thieves and blah 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 and all these things, right? People get sex traffic from Craigslist, and you're gonna get abducted and beat up and robbed and all these things. My experience with Craigslist was I always would meet clients or people who want to be my best friend who are great people and things like this, right? So every time I showed up, they're amazing. They're so creative. They're in this. And then every single time I'd show up on another transaction. Me growing up liking garage sales was a big part of this, but you know, bargain shopping. Me showing up and going, I meet the best people on Craigslist. To this day, hundreds of people later, hopefully it's not that many, but probably is. Hundreds of people later, every single one of them have gotten better and better and better and better because I put it into my forces, into my creator field, that every person I meet is great. And I'm constantly calling out these things. Now, had I gone and started my second time after this and I'm like, ooh, that's a little sketchy. I wonder what this could mean. What's going to happen the next time I go is it's going to doubly appear sketchy and then
Mm.
times four and then six. So I'm going to create this belief from a creator field that's handing out these scripts of I'm a little concerned now that it's got to be more concerned the next person I meet. So when I walk into a room and go, these people are all here to help me, and this is the proof, and this is the proof they care about me, Every room I walk into is going to amplify those things, the law of focus.
Mm.
So that exercise I talk about, walking in a room and going, how are they here supportive, and how are they here as an amazing person? What's a great quality of them that they're bringing in before you notice the fight or flight stuff? If you
They don't like
program
me. They don't
this
like me.
in, you now create your situations to be this always on a science level, on so many different levels. This is what you're going to bring out, and what you
Mm,
focus on, you'll get more of. Uh,
right.
that's just, focus on a good idea, it will grow. Focus on a bad idea, it'll consume your life. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the same principle there, and you can turn the best person in the world into the greatest thug in the world just by what you choose to focus on. Like,
Wow.
it's the ones who appear to be nice, they're the most dangerous, and they're gonna cut me, and serial killer, and blah blah blah. So I can do all this, and the person didn't even do anything. So for me, that's where this coming in and going, what are they bringing into the situation? How are they here to support me? They dressed up, which means they're here to support this in a professional way. They care, they think highly enough about my idea that they're showing up at their best self, which means they're being supportive by being their best self, or being all in on this. Great. How about this person? What are they bringing to the scenario? A smile, which means that they're bringing an openness to what I want to bring about, to what I want to say. That's amazing that they're supporting me with openness. Again, I can't know. I can with intuition, but I can't know if it's for me or not. So why not just assume it's for you and it's to benefit you, and have that
Yeah.
become your life? Like I turned Craigslist into meet my next best friend. Not
Yeah.
really, but kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love it. And I remember like in high school, what felt like this proper spiritual awakening where I realized we have this higher self, this larger non-physical part of who we are. And I realized we are like video game characters. And so I would begin to like, I went from like being on one end of the social scale to the complete other because at one time I would assume people didn't like me. Like I was super invested in that. And if, obviously I just share there's some remnants of it still a little bit, but I started just to radically assume that everyone liked me. Like I would remember, like I would go to a party, stand behind the door, and psych myself out, where I'm like everyone likes me, and I began to realize that all of those thoughts that I had that people don't like me, they don't want me at the party, all these other things, because I've experienced the full spectrum of like a social life, whether it was completely abundant, completely absent, and none of them had those thoughts about me. It was all illusions. And so this idea of finding the good that just stuck with me at that time when you shared it, and I felt it would be beneficial for the listener that's hearing
Oh,
this.
I mean, this will change your whole life. It's such a simple thing, but you know, giving the world the benefit of the doubt is going to create more of people blowing you away.
Yeah,
But assuming the world is out to get you will get you a whole lot of problems in the world.
yeah,
And it's just uh, our creator field, it's full of scripts. And what script do you want? Do you want a script full of villains, or do you want a script full of supporting people?
yeah. That's beautiful. Like this idea of like we are the creators of our reality, and whatever we focus on, like you said, grows. So I know that I've said, a couple times in this episode that I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to be respectful of your time. We're almost on hour three. So I do have a couple more questions that I was excited to ask. So I don't have a great segue into them, but I think a lot of the listeners will appreciate this as well. So excuse the sort of like hard right turn transition to this next topic before we let Alessandro go to, maybe feed his puppies or, live his life. um,
Have a
whatever
life.
yes, yes. How many puppies do you have again? Two?
We've got two right now,
Two.
but
Okay.
there is a future bulldog in question, so that'll be interesting.
This is so funny, like having it instilled. Okay, I'm good at segues. This was completely an accident, but the segue is into animals, and that was like totally not intentional. So speaking of
Well
animals,
done.
yeah, speaking of animals, I want to go animals, but even again, get a little bit esoteric in regards to like mermaids, and not that a fairy is an animal,
Mm.
but fairies and things of that nature. We'll start with animals. How I get again, I don't have a question packaged perfectly, but from the source perspective, I guess that could be a question. How does source view animals? And then we'll get into the more mermaids, fairies, things of that nature.
Animals are guides in the physical world,
Bum
guides
bum
and guardian
bum.
angels. They are
They're so precious.
They are the same way your guides are whispering in your ears and inspiring and getting you to take a leap of faith or think of something that you need to be doing. Animals do the same thing. They're the physical, tangible version of your guides, and they are aware of everything they do. And if they seem stupid, they're not. They're acting it out based on what's in your creator field and what you need to learn and do. So, physical guides. So, they're 10 times more conscious and aware of what's going on in your life than you are. And they're playing the role to get you to the place and time that will be best for your spirit self.
So, do you think they can understand our actual spoken word? Because
Oh,
technically that is energy and they're able to
oh
like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Romeo, who's the co-pilot for the podcast, you can talk to him just like this, and he'll look at
yeah,
you, he'll go and go do the exact thing. Like
that
he
is, oh my
his
gosh.
vocabulary is ridiculous. You
Wow.
you can talk to him in full sentences and he will make it happen. Like he understands everywhere. I've never seen anything to that degree, but I mean based on where me and my partner are in our life at this time, it makes sense. Why not?
Okay, so in I'm wondering in the animal kingdom, does something similar exist where we've had beings like Christ, Buddha, people that have, changed this world for a better and a source aligned way? In the animal kingdom, is there maybe not that level of consciousness, but are there levels of consciousness to that degree in the animal
Yeah,
kingdom?
like the answer is yes, and the same way that human beings will expand in consciousness, the animals are doing the same thing. Like there's a gorilla, I think in Thailand. Her name, I can't remember. It's been so long. The loneliest gorilla on the planet, and the human rights or animal rights groups have been trying to free this gorilla from 30 years of captivity. Never had another gorilla to be around, interact with, and things like that. That gorilla is teaching millions and millions of people, which also means the frequency of that gorilla would have to be higher than, say, an animal teaching one person. So there are their reincarnation does not ever go to human. It goes to other higher frequency, higher conscious beings. And like,
Okay, that was my next
so
question.
is a dog, they might be a 3 or 400 consciousness. And then, that gorilla was at least a cat in another lifetime. And now that cat, learned to become a better teacher, created this life, and now is teaching hundreds of millions of people based on the story about themselves and about the world and about their life and things like that. So, yes,
So, okay, so animals don't become people.
humans.
So
Correct.
how come I've seen certain souls where I like it wasn't fully intuitive because this was like earlier on before I learned about intuition, but I was like, you were definitely a dog in a past life. Like just
Uh-huh.
just just all their mannerisms, the way that they act, the way their attention span. It's just like
So that comes from it's goes back to intuition actually. It's intuition is communicated in the way we can understand, not in the way that actually is. So the message came in is not is actual, but more more sort of in context of something. So it comes in as something that can help you get to the answer, but not the answer. So it's
right,
not
right,
meant to be
right.
taken literally when you first start developing
Hmm.
intuition. So quick context of this. If I intuit I should go skydiving, it pops in and I see an image skydiving. Alessandro needs to go jump out of a plane. My first thing is going to be, is this meant to be taken literally? And what I'm going to do is,
Yeah.
it was the only way the message can be communicated to me. But what the translation was supposed to be that I didn't get, that I didn't translate, was I am supposed to do something that makes me feel like I'm jumping out of a plane, but not
Right,
jump out of a plane. So that
right.
was the message. So for somebody in that scenario where they're like, you were definitely a dog in your life, there is
Yeah.
a communication in there that is the heart, the truth of the story, but it was delivered in something where you can get that packet of information, of understanding, and then to strip away the delivery, the package, like we get a package from Amazon, to take away the package, that was the package it comes in. We have to open it up and find the actual
The core of the truth.
trinket, yes, whatever it
Yeah.
is in there that was real, and throw away the packaging. That was just a delivery system. So with most intuition, people will see like a balloon floating up and they'll go, "Oh, it's literal." It's not. It's the
Representative.
package in which the real story exists.
Right, right. So are there exceptions? Are there exceptions where maybe you've seen like, oh, you actually were a dog in a past life and you had such a high enough frequency that you're like, let's, or is it just not the route of an animal?
Yeah, there's two sort of consciousnesses, like paths. There's probably more, but for in our understanding of things, for example, second realm beings will never become human. Second realm beings will, if they evolve and reach the level of everything there is to learn as a second realm being, they'll become like an alien or something else. They'll become
A
something.
like still like aligned with source or like disconnected with source?
It's like a different path to get to source. Like there's one path
Mm,
where you can kind of become the universe. There's another path where you become a little god. So one is sort of the universe is a living, breathing thing, like the earth
yeah.
is a living, breathing being. So the sun, like all these things, you can become a planet, you can become a solar system or something like that. It's like
My brain is just mind. Okay, keep going. I'm just enjoying this.
so there's different paths, and like second realm beings never become human beings, and the animals never cross over to human because they're crossing over to becoming like a planet or a planetary system or a universe or something like that. Like each one is evolving up to a path of being a part of source. So we are very unique in the image of source, are evolving to become source, and this is why we have emotion, where
Wow.
alien beings do not have emotion. They've got technology and all these things, and they're here studying humans because they realize the untapped power source that we have, and how having all the technology in the world, they don't have the solutions or the abilities to do what they do. And again, it's a different path. It goes up into a different direction.
Are aliens created by source?
Yes. So the whole system is like,
Okay.
even
Okay.
reptilians. The thing that happened was reptilians decided they wanted to be gods and do have more power than what source was giving them. So they
Okay.
broke away from source, cut
Okay.
off their source energy, because they felt like tapping into human beings would give them more power and they could do anything they wanted with it. Versus if it were source energy, source can turn it off when it's not to a good use. But
Yeah.
with drawing from human beings, you can do whatever you want with that power source and energies. So it's like reptilians are fifth realm beings. So they,
Have a higher
went
level
from
of
the third
consciousness.
realm to the fourth to the fifth, and so on and so forth. But the second they cut off their themselves from source, now they're not growing anymore, doing any of these things. They're sort of in this frozen Walt Disney state right now, but they're trying to, make things happen based on what they have access to here. So it's really fascinating.
All right. What I've been teasing quite a people with is this word esoteric subject, and we've kind of gotten there. So, in regards to mermaids, do mermaids exist? Or at least have you intuitively looked? I should ask that.
I actually, because it's come up, I looked to see where it came up from. It
Because
came
it.
up probably from sick sailors, is where it came from, like hallucinating from illnesses and things
Uh
like
huh.
that. Unfortunately, the answer is almost yes. Everything exists, it seems like, but mermaids is not one of those. Um,
What about like so maybe not specifically a mermaid, but maybe some sort of human form that has a fin? Because isn't it like 5% of the ocean been discovered or
oh
something
yeah,
like
I
that?
mean, we know nothing about this
So
planet,
I've heard
but
of
as
like
far as
sirens or
like
something like
um
Like okay, does a version of a mermaid exist?
Like when I ask a question, are there any humans or human like
Human-like creatures?
resemblances that can live and breathe underwater? I'm not seeing it. Maybe aliens maybe aliens that could be
Okay.
the other
Other
thing
question to ask.
about
Okay.
it, but they're not going to look so human. Which, although every old picture of a mermaid, if you look at it with the eyes of if this were an alien, would kind of make sense. They're like gangly and
Yeah,
things
sure.
like that. So that would make sense to me. Yes, there are aliens that can do all that stuff,
Okay.
but as far as like humans that have merged DNA, I don't see it in that context, in
Okay.
that regard. But it's also because it's very specific for us. We're we're made in an image that resembles source. So there's not going to be any alterations of how we look.
Hmm.
And this is why the whole evolution thing doesn't really hold water, is because it wouldn't make sense with the original idea of us, of how we were created to be and everything else. Like we don't don't really need to evolve that much.
So we arrived on Earth in the image of Source,
Yeah, I
essentially
think it was something like I can't remember. It's been so long ago. I'd have to sit with it for a second, but I think it was like Adam and Eve isn't the real story. I think it was like seven couples or something like that was sort of the beginning. Human beings have
from where
existed,
though?
created from source. So
Just
we in
and
this system.
placed on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Were there
Yeah,
alien? Was there alien sort of?
interference with that? No, but alien influence came later on. So from reptilians, that's how we ended up with time of Egypt and a lot of the dark
Okay,
things there. The technologies in Egypt all came from alien influence, alien and reptilian.
so I like to sort of listen to sort of like I don't know if it's the Egyptian times or like hear things from the Bible and things of that nature. And I like to find a truth in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like what, there's got to be some sort of aspect of truth in this. And I'm wondering if so you're saying reptilian DNA has been instilled and injected into us. I wonder if
Yeah,
that's where maybe we're like we were born into sin comes from. Maybe.
I think the born into sin was the dark force. I think it was more nefarious than that. It was like, how do we get people off balance people? How do we get them not to believe in their potential and power? And it
But
seems
there's an aspect of that that is like where we're like you're saying aspect or is that part of our DNA in alignment with source? Because an aspect of it could be seen as true, which I don't subscribe to that. I see this as perfect, but like where yeah, there's an aspect of your DNA that is cut off from source, or is that not how it's
it's we were hijacked by reptilians. So
right?
when I opened up my gifts and started doing surgeries on people with being able to manipulate DNA and body parts and things like that with different forces, the when you develop your third eye to a level, you'll see reptilian stuff in our DNA that
Uh
doesn't
huh.
belong there. And
Right. Right.
whenever you remove that stuff, but that was the whole thing with the system, is they were able to crack into the human blueprint, change it so that it was easier to keep us from connecting to the information, because anyone who truly connects to their potentials makes it much harder to control and to utilize. So what they did was they figured out how to, because good doesn't always conquer evil, when it comes to spiritual warfare, they were able to win the battle and then hijack the human blueprint, put the stuff in there to make it harder for us to wake up, to realize our birthright, conscious potentials, and things like that. And humanity is had to overcome that for the last at least like so many years. I mean, it's wild. So since the beginning time of Egypt was one of those periods of where this stuff happened, was where the reptilian DNA was inserted into the human blueprint, and then it became this huge issue.
Do fairies and leprechauns exist?
Uh, Fairies do. I've seen them. They're very, very private. They don't typically have anything to do with people. We used to have my daughter when she was young. We used to go on walks, and there was a fairy house, and it was funny. It looked like a jungle, like secret garden. It was like you couldn't even see the house because they didn't want to be bothered by people. So yes, fairies exist. Leprechauns, it probably came from second people seeing a second realm being,
Mm,
is probably where that came from. Like because second realm beings come in all shapes and sizes and things like that.
yeah.
And if you ever seen the Leprechaun, like the 1980s movie, they do
Uh-huh.
look like demons to a certain degree. So
Yeah.
um
Well, yeah, I had a family member that was just beginning to hallucinate, later in their life and would just say all the time, like, and this family member was like very traditional in her religion and things of that nature, and would just say as she began to get a little bit delirious, saying that there's little people running around her house all the time, like
yeah,
all, and
yeah, yeah.
she was adamant about it, like, no,
Yeah, yeah.
they're here all the time.
And it's so true. I mean, between it possibly being alien beings who have hypnotized, with technology or whatever to exist around. I've seen all shapes, sizes of second realm beings and other beings around. We had like it looked like a massive toad the size of a Great Dane in one of our schools at one point that had to be
Yeah.
relocated,
Uh-huh.
moved. I mean, there is, a lot of the stuff we see in Hollywood, it's intuitive people who saw these things and created them. It is wild,
Interesting.
to the degree of what Hollywood has come up with for a lot of it. It's based on something, in my experience, that was real.
That's so fascinating. It's so funny, Alessandro. I share this with you each and every time. I could have a conversation with you for hours. Like I could keep going, and I'm just like I have to find a cutoff because I think it'll just create more goodness for our next conversation, which I
Yeah,
would love to
and
have you on here again.
anticipation
Yeah,
is is
anticipation.
is is what I've learned.
Oh
People
yeah.
are like,
Oh, I have
time to
so
think, time to go, oh, I
digest.
want this, and versus going, oh, that was a lot, guys. You answered everything. I'm done.
Yes, yeah, everything at once.
No more, please.
Yeah, I mean, even like, having, maybe separating the subjects into one episode, like where it's on animals, because I'm just like, man, I could keep going with this topic. I have so many more questions. I'm not gonna answer. I'm not gonna ask these. I'm gonna I want to.
Table them.
I'm Yes, yeah. So we're gonna save them for another time.
Cool.
It's just so fast. Like it's just such an exciting topic. Everything we've talked about today, at least for myself, it's such a joy. Like it's such a joy to begin these learn new aspects of what we could call source perspective, and that's why we call this Source Clarity podcast. And realizing our highest levels of clarity allow us to realize more aspects of the self and more aspects and layers to this universe. So I guess the final question for you, Alessandro, and I've asked you this before, but if you had a megaphone out to humanity and you can give them an intuitive message, and maybe you could, streamline it just for the listener with an actionable step, something like, I think it's great to listen to a podcast.
Hmm.
These two guys talk we're on hour 3 now, and it's exciting and it's fun, but I find it's the integration, it's the actionable steps that really create transformation. So if you had a last message to offer our listeners, what would that be?
Don't leave it to anyone else to make a change for you. That's the big lesson in the world right now. That would be my bullhorn message of going, not one person is going to solve anything for you. If anything is going to change in your life, you have to rule out that nobody around you is going to do any of the things that need to be done. And you need to take it in your own hands to do it today. I'm seeing this huge thing of, you know, like the administration, and depending on what country you're in, and if you're in the United States, there's this big great hope in Trump is going to solve it for us or solve it for, whatever's going on. But the source, the source understanding that the world needs to get right now is that you have to make the changes, that there is no savior, there is nobody who is going to fix things. Like, you have to have actionable steps that start within your life, your household, then your neighborhood, then your community. And if you don't go from that place, if the world doesn't unanimously change its life by affecting what it can touch right now in this moment, nothing is going to change. And we're all going to be let down by these people that we're putting so much faith in and hope that the world's going to be better because of this person. It will not, it cannot, it is source's rule that it will not go that way. The big lesson is that, the things that are going on, that the imbalances that you're seeing, the things that you're unhappy about in the world, the whatever it is that is really truly deeply bothering you, nobody is going to fix it. You are the only one that can do it. That is the rule right now of this acceleration, this expanding consciousness. And the sooner everyone goes, yep, it's nobody's job but my own, and I've got this actionable plan. I'm going to make this difference today, this difference tomorrow, by next week, next month, next year I'll be here, and it will be different because I made it different. If every person on the planet did that, man, talk about a golden age. So that would be it. Of catch yourself going, they'll fix it. They'll do it. It's their responsibility. If you're noticing it, it means you have a part in it, which means you should find out how to fix it today or start that process of fixing it today.
How do you begin that process?
So, identify something of going, I start everything with myself. If you want people to see what's beneath their skin, then start seeing who you are underneath all of your physical flesh suit. And then start seeing every person you meet as who they are on the inside, not the outside. Like, disregard all that stuff. Be the person who eats, breathes, and sleeps, walking as in, I only see your core self, and that's it. And I'm only going to treat you according to your core self. If that's the kind of change you want to bring to the world, you have to bring it to yourself, and you have to show the rest of the people to do it. I was talking about this in some marriage context the other day, how both partners, after about 10 years, it's like you're dating yourself. Relationships don't get there is because one of the partners was doing things externally versus doing it on the outside. So I'll give you context. My partner, I don't push any of the stuff, don't teach any of the stuff. When she asks, I'll explain things, but I don't do any of it. How things end up in our relationship is we'll be in the kitchen. She'll ask about something. All right, my intuition says this, says for this and this reason it's going to be good. That's my 2 cents, and walk away. I don't go, what's your intuition say, or any of that. Some years later, same thing. She's now going to the actions I'm rooted to and doing. She's going to start to do, and she does. And she goes, my intuition says, isn't my intuition great? And all these things. So we learn by being rooted to and doing. So if you want the world to change, you have to embody that change, and you have to apply it to yourself and other people. So that would be my actionable step. Is if I want people to see outside of what their external body looks at, big, small, thick, thin, um, this shade or this shade, then show people what it looks like. Do it authentically and all the time, and you will start to change in your household, your neighborhood, your community, your city, your state, and everything else. And that is how I go about doing it. So if I want people to get reflections, I'm going to go, hey, you could fix this with reflections. No, I'm going to go, thank you for doing that thing. Didn't realize I was out of this balance. I'm gonna run home. I know you're brilliant. You played your role perfectly. I know how to fix this. You're gonna save this from ever happening to me again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I was being a dick to you. No, 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 no. It was great. You did exactly what I needed you to do. I would ask you to do it again. This is great. And that they're going, I've seen it done. It was authentic. It works. It seems the truth. I'm going to start doing that. And that's how we do change. And this is why every one of our intuitives and healers are, they don't become a a frontal part of guided light healing until they're leading by example, because this is what it takes. So those would be my micro steps.
Lead by example. That is such an impactful message, and it just makes so much sense. Instead of trying to, trying to change someone's life, you're almost implying something's wrong with them instead of
Yeah.
just looking in, right?
Or motivating them to change, which is even worse because that person's
Yeah.
going, you don't like me.
Yeah. No, totally. Alessandro, thank you so much for being on this podcast and taking the time out of your day to be here on hour 3. You know how much appreciation, love, gratitude I have for you. And I like to especially express it on a platform in front of, an audience, just so that they know. I mean, that's just like my way of hopefully giving back to the life change that you've given me and the people that I know. And if
Oh,
you're
and then
listening,
some. I mean, this is great, man. We're hopefully for the better changing lives
yeah,
today.
and yeah, and if anyone's listening to this, I couldn't encourage it enough. Like a lot of our communities have blended, and a lot of you are well aware of Alessandro, who is the founder of Guided Light Healing, who I'm a part of. But if you're new and you haven't heard of Alessandro, all of his information is going to be in the show notes on how to begin, this process, your adventure. And Alessandro, thank you so much for being a special guest on Source Clarity. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. I have the biggest amount of love in the world times
Yes.
five for you. So you're amazing. I well, I did predict you would step into this role, but I'm so
I
happy
did.
you did and made me right on this. But you're incredible. You are the being who is just going to shift so many lives, has and will. It's great. You are a great vessel for people to connect with. So keep doing what you're doing,
Oh
man.
my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. It's kind of hard to receive compliments. It's funny. Anytime I'm like giving you a compliment, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, this is probably uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm like, I'm making an intention to let Alessandro know how much I appreciate him, but that's good. I receive. I'm working on this receiving thing. So thank you, Alessandro. And for all of you listening, thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to this. If, you're anything like me and Alessandro, you're excited to learn, you're excited to grow. And that just elicits excitement within myself. So thank you for being a part of this community, and thank you for listening to this episode of Source Clarity. Stay awesome and authentic, friends. Alrighty, peace.